Ooh, what up, H-Town? Hey, how we doing?
He's Blank, I'm Branham. It's Brian McDonald behind the glass. It is a Taco Tuesday edition of the Killer Bees on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5. I invented Taco Tuesday, Brian. I don't know if you are aware of that.
Wait, you're taking credit for Taco Tuesday?
Oh,
Yeah.
I knew that was coming.
Okay.
Why wouldn't I take credit for Taco Tuesday?
Please make the case.
I invented it. I said, today's Taco Tuesday. We have tacos on Tuesday, and that's what we do. I'm in a good mood. Cougars
should
won
be.
a big basketball game yesterday. I'm excited
Fantastic
for that.
win.
There's a little flare in my headphone.
Mine too, and my right ear is not working.
Is it yours as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little flare in my headphone. A little flare in my headphone. Lots to get to today. Rockets are going to start what do we call it? Not the second half. Post
The
All-Star
final
break.
stretch. The
I like
final
that.
push.
Let's go with that. Final push. They start the final push coming up Thursday. And there's some things you got to do with the Rockets that we'll discuss. Mock drafts are making those great again. It is a cash it or trash it Tuesday. We have some cash-ems. We have some trash-ems. We'll dive into the Cougars stuff a little bit later, too. They deserve it. So does Jamal Shed. Brian thinks that Mike Evans, I'm just reading the show tweet here. You know how we do. Like the producer will put together, the non-talent will put together this little show preview tweet.
Firing shots right off the top.
And you know, we talk about it. These are the things we're talking about today, blah, 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 blah. The first bullet point says Mike Evans to the Texans is a no-brainer. Why is that a no-brainer? I don't think it's a no-brainer. Are you speaking for us, Brian McDonald?
I'm speaking for a topic on the show. You can obviously disagree with my opinion on that. In my opinion,
No-brainer.
it is a no-brainer, and you can go with that. You go with that where you
see,
where you would like. But I just think it makes a whole lot of sense for both Mike Evans and for the Houston
Yeah,
Texans.
but financially, how does that make sense? If he's looking at upwards of 25 to 27 mil a year.
Well, certainly you can get priced out, and that would be something that you'll have to find out once you can actually negotiate with them. But the Texans, if they want to, they have the money to pay him. It's just a question if they want to pay whatever it takes to get Mike Evans. But they certainly have the salary cap space to do so. And I just think from a team construction standpoint, because we saw how desperately the Texans got for playmakers at wide receiver once one injury hit them when Tank Dell let go Cougs went out for the season. So I think it'd be both beneficial to the Texans for C.J. Stroud to get a third playmaker and have some more depth if another injury hits him. And I think it makes a lot of sense for Mike Evans. He's from here. I think, like, there's an article that we're going to talk about in this segment, lists 5 contenders to sign Mike Evans. And when you go down the list, I think C.J. Stroud is one of the, the best 3 quarterbacks on the list. And you have places like Kansas City where, if he wins, great, he gets a title, but he doesn't get any of the credit. He could go to Cincinnati. That's another team on this list, but you're behind Jamar Chase. I just think there's a lot of things converging together where he's both the star that he wants to be, he could get paid the amount that he wants to be, and he could have the team success. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Those are a lot of really good points, but I want to get back to the show preview here for a second, Brian. It says
really
the
hung
Killer
up on
Bees
this
with
aspect.
Pac-Man Joel and Jeremy Branham. I don't see Sacked by BMAC anywhere, which is a problem. Start including your Twitter handle on the show
I can
preview.
Do that. I can do that.
But we're the only 2 Twitter handles, and you're saying Mike Evans to the
Look,
Texans is a no-brainer.
There's a character limit. I can only fit so many things on there.
What's the opposite of a no-brainer? A brainer or a non-no-brainer?
That's a good question.
What is the opposite of a no-brainer?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good. That might be
brain
it.
fart?
That could very well be it. Now, I think that's where the conversation's at because Brian, with all the points you line up are really good ones. I like Mike Evans. I think Mike Evans is really good. Some people would tell you that he's washed. I don't think he's washed. I think he still has
one of
plenty
his
left
best
in the
seasons
tank.
ever last year.
And that's
and
with Baker
with
Mayfield. Yeah.
Which I think Baker's okay. I think Baker's fine. Like I think he's
Kind of resurrected his
top
career
20
in a lot of ways.
Where would you put him? Top 20?
25.
Okay. Top 20, top 25, kind of splitting hairs there.
Yeah.
And C.J. Stroud's top 5. So, like, he would be improving at the quarterback position, whether he's top 20, whether he's top 25. So, like, we agree on a lot of things whenever we're talking about Mike Evans. Really good player. I do think it's critical to add to that wide receiver room. I would probably go about it a little bit differently. I think that the conversation and the talking point here is what Brian mentioned. You can get priced out. So, like, what is the price figure? I think that's what it comes down to with Mike Evans. Because Mike Evans is going to sign at a $10 million AAV. Yeah, I want the Houston Texans to be in the Mike Evans business. If it's $27 million a year, okay, I'm out of the Mike Evans business. I think that's where the conversation has to be had. We like him as a player. We think he would help the Houston Texans. We know he's from Galveston. Made Johnny Manziel in College Station. Shots fired, Johnny Manziel.
No, it's
so like
perfectly accurate take.
Really accurate.
It's very accurate.
So we're very much on the same page. So where is the talking point when discussing Mike Evans to the Texans? I think it's the price tag.
No doubt.
I think it's how much he gets paid.
I'd be comfortable with 20. I don't know what you guys would be comfortable at.
It's a little high for me. Now, what's interesting, Blankers, is the salary cap apparently is going to go up like $8 million more than what people expected. So, like, now you're turning $57.5 million into cap space into $63.5 million into cap space. So even Evans getting $22 million isn't going to take as big a piece of the pie.
Yeah, and you got, Jeremy, you know me better than anybody in the fact that I always say it's the return on the investment. What is it going to cost? Like, what are you going to get and how much do you have to pay? 27 is just through the roof, way too much. And I scoffed when I heard the Highway to Hell yesterday talking about, well, if they sign Mike Evans, it means they're in business. That means they're probably going to get a big-time running back too. And I'm going, are you just completely putting blinders on to all you have to re-sign of your own and or bring in if you're going to replace them and the money it's going to take to do that along with the draft picks? Because, I understand they have, the fourth most cap space. But you have to still be logical and intelligent with how you spend that. And if Mike Evans has said he's not early on when we were in the playoffs, there was rumors that he had said he's not giving anybody a discount. He's looking to get that kind of big-time wide receiver money still. That scares me because you have to either figure out Gernard or a replacement for Gernard. And he's in the $20 million a year range. You've got plenty of other guys, like I said, whether it's Schultz or Rankins or the guys that you think, or Stevie Nelson or Singletary, guys you're thinking about bringing back have a cost associated with them too that's not giving anybody any bargains for the most part. So there's a lot of guys to take into consideration, and I don't know with the receivers you already have that would be a priority to get another big receiver as opposed to getting other positions around the field that make you a better team.
The Texans have more free agents than anybody in the NFL.
Is that right?
Yes. They have more free agents than anybody in the NFL. We've went through the two deep, and we think that the Texans need to add 10-ish starting caliber players. And you can do some of that in the draft. Now, I don't think it's fair to say that whoever you're drafting in the third rounder should be a day one starter. I think it's fair with a first rounder. I think it's fair with a second rounder. And if you want to say another starter with the rest of the draft, okay, I'll be conservative. I'll give you that. I'll concede that point. That's three. That's three players. You're looking at $3.5 million for the rookie class. Now, the salary boost does help you in the salary cap. That's pretty significant. That's $8 million you didn't think you were going to have. So, that's a big deal. The restructures, Caserio needs to get busy with his capologist and restructure some deals. Robert Woods is a cap casualty, in my opinion. You can save $5 million. Jimmy Ward, you can cut $4 million. I think that's a cap casualty because I really don't think they're starting caliber players, although I know Jimmy Ward would start games whenever he was healthy, not very often. So that's 7 more starters for roughly $60 million. Let's go $60 million in a good round number.
I think what Caserio's shown with his ability to put together, starting lineups with the veterans he's got in on 1- and 2-year deals certainly would indicate to me that he could fit that amount of starters with that amount of salary cap
I think
space.
that what you're going to have to decide is, do you want to spend, you said 20, do you want to spend 20 on Evans? Now you're looking at $40 million in cap space to spend on 6 more starters. So that's roughly $8 million a year on
I'd
everybody
be very
else.
comfortable with that.
I don't think I'm there. I don't think I want to go to
Sheldon
20.
Rankins was on the high end of their 1-year, 2-year type guys, and he was right at $9 million per year over the 1-year deal that he got.
He's a starter,
right?
He's a starter.
So I think, you're talking $9 million there, $8 million here. I think you're within the range of being able to get quality starters on short contracts.
See, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. I think if they're going to make a splash in free agency, I think the running back makes more sense because you can get an impact player like a Mike Evans, but you get it at the running back at a cheaper price. If it's a Saquon, he's probably hovering around 10 to 12.
Right.
And you still have plenty of money, and especially if you get rid of Woods and there's 5 of it right there, you can do some things. You can even look at restructuring some contracts. I think the 3 biggest contracts are Howard and Tunsil, and I forget who the third one is. But you can get creative.
I wouldn't expect Tunsil to give money back.
Maybe not, but you know what? He knows what he's seen. He's now seen the future, and this team is going somewhere. And maybe he's got, he's not losing any of that money. And if it helps the team get better players so they become even better next year, I think that a lot of guys obviously sign up for that because they either get the money sooner or they
Sure.
get it so that to make sure that they still get it. And we've seen a team like the Saints a couple years ago where they were like some ungodly $32 million over, and by the time free agency started, they were competing for other players.
It's gonna. I don't think I would go over $20 million for Evans.
I wouldn't either.
And where you're weak at, like I don't think the Texans are weak at receiver. And I know that those guys like had injuries, and I think that that's something that you do have to account for. But I also think that Nick Caserio is pretty good at drafting receivers. So if you draft another third-round receiver that's pretty good, not to say he's going to be Tank Dell in year one, that's a pretty talented group, and I like spending that money on defense for DeMeco Ryans. I think that you have holes to fill, whether it's linebacker, whether it's another safety. What about a corner? What about another defensive end? Like we even haven't talking about the John Grenard aspect of this. If you're giving Evans $20 million, does that take you out of the John Grenard game at $17 million? Probably. Because now if you go from Evans $20 million, you're down to 40 for, what did we say, 8 or 9, 7 or 6 different starters. Then you give John Grenard another $20 million. Now you're down to 20, and you still have to fill 5 other positions. So I think the Texans are going to have one high-dollar free agent acquisition. And it could be John Grenard. Could be a franchise tag on John Grenard. Maybe you let John Grenard walk and you play the veteran defensive end game opposite of Will Anderson. I think the Texans have one big swing. And you could convince me, too, that you don't need to do the one big swing. If you just want to spread it out and have a really good, deep, solid football team, I'm okay with that. I think that that's what wins in the NFL is depth and then obviously being really good at quarterback. So, like, that route would be fine for me. But I think they have one at most big free agent spend. And I wouldn't even count running back there. Like if you can get a running back for less than $10 million, I wouldn't call that a big swing.
No, I think Saquon's probably the one that's going to push over 10, and I think that Josh Jacobs might hover right around it. I don't think Derrick Henry's getting anything like that. I don't think Eckler's getting 10. And so I think that you can compete and you can – but I think the biggest thing to me is get creative because I think that they can replace John Grenard and they don't have to – immediately people's minds go to, well, either sign Grenard for whatever he wants or go out and spend about the same amount to get his replacement. I don't think you have to do that. I think
because Jeremy mentioned like Nick Caserio's ability to draft wide receivers and find wide receivers in the third round. Obviously, Nico and Tank. He did the same thing with pass rushers. Look at Nick Barnett last year. That came out of nowhere and was a very valuable pass rusher for the Houston Texans.
Yeah, no. So that's what I'm saying. I think
Derek Barnett. Sorry,
you get creative with your money. And you use it in such a way that you can replace all the starters you need to replace, but there's a way to do that and still get better. And the draft is obviously the first place you start, but Caserio has also found from the Fighting Rex Burkheads to taking a step up to finding the Stevie Nelsons and the Sheldon Rankins and the Dalton Schultzes of the world that made you better, that there are other guys every single year that are just like that waiting to be the next guy if you can't re-sign the guys that have played well for you. And that's where you got to be smart. I don't want to see any one guy get more than $20 million with what they're faced with right now. That being Mike Evans, John Grenard, or guys like that, because I think that you still have enough holes to fill and ways to get better that I don't really like the idea of them overspending.
Yeah. See, Tunsil did restructure the deal. Like restructure, you're not giving money back. Right. It's just like more guarantees and all of that stuff. So I think he'd be willing to do business there, especially if you're giving him money up front. I think he'd be really pleased with that. So I don't want to go over 20. Brian, you said you're good with 20.
I'd be comfortable at 20, and for what it's worth, his market value estimation on Spot Rack is 23. So we're within the ballpark.
Is it Spot Track or Spot Track?
I don't know.
I
go
it
back and forth on that.
But I'm not good at pronunciation.
Potato.
But they also have John Grenard like at 13. So it's like, okay, how accurate are they? So what's your figure, Blinkers?
My figure for Mike Evans?
Yeah, what's your number?
I think to be fair to Mike Evans and what I think he's worth and what he's wanting to get, I think it's another one of those $20 million threshold numbers. I think you're hovering around 20, and that's what he's looking for. If you feel, and again, I think from a Texans perspective, I would go lower than that because I don't think the need is that great. It's more of the luxury of adding a Mike Evans and knowing you already got 2 really good receivers. You could get so much better, but just like we were talking about, I think there are other receivers that are a lot cheaper that make that receiver room better overall.
Yeah.
And you have 2 guys on the roster that can do a lot of the things Mike Evans does, especially because Nico's a big receiver.
And you spread it out. Like you spread it out over the rest of the team. Now, I do think that the Texans are a good situation for Mike Evans, and I think that Mike Evans could be a good situation for the Texans, but the money has to make sense, and the sense has to make money. Is that how the saying goes?
I don't know.
I don't
that was
think,
actually.
I don't think that's
I
how
thought
it goes.
you made that yourself. That was pretty good.
Nah, there's a saying. I think I screwed it up. 713-780-ESPN, the HRP listener line, 713-780-3776. We're on Twitch, twitch.tv/ESPN975. That's where all the bums are. If you're a professional, you can go to ESPN Houston on YouTube. I'm kidding. He's at Pac-Man Joel on Twitter. Brian's at Sacked by BMAC. I'm at Jeremy Branham. When we come back, the Texans have 8 dudes on the top 150 free agent list. Obviously, there's some bad to that, right? But I'm optimistic. I'm always glass half full. Why there's optimism there? It's the Killer Bees on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5.
Guys, before we go to the break, I want to tell you about the newest, latest, and greatest golf establishment that I found. It's called X Golf. It's in Katy. It's at 99 at I-10. It's absolutely fantastic. It is 8 of the best golf simulators I've ever seen or been on. And I'm telling you right now, unlike the other simulators where it's really tough to get chipping and putting, and the putting is always jacked up and it's a really weird concept, this is literally hitting your putter on a green and reading greens and hitting putts like you would at a golf course. Same thing with chipping. It's the feel and everything of all your chip shots to get you better. Even when the weather isn't good outside, or maybe you want to practice at night, it's like the best sports bar you've ever been at with all the great TVs and all the fine refreshments. And then you add the 8 golf simulators to it, and you realize this is where parties happen. This is where good things can take place. You can have birthday parties. You can have office get-togethers. It's absolutely fantastic. You can play 50 different courses from around the world. You can do a driving range. But the best thing is, because of these simulators, it can track the spin and the distance of every shot, and you can actually work on your game. They also have lessons and fittings available, but it's just the greatest new place that I've found, especially when the weather isn't conducive, whether it be darkness or rain. Check them out today. We're going to be there Friday. You can stop in and see us, but go check it out online. Check out X Golf right now.
Welcome back, Houston. These guys missed you over the last break. It's the Killer Bees, Joel Blank and Jeremy Branham, live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
He's Blank on Branham, 713-780-ESPN. Get to the Texans free agents, that a bunch of them on the top 150 list. There's obviously bad news to that because you got to fill them, but there's good news to it first. Good news to it as well. But first, let's go out to the HRP listener line. Andy, you're in the hive with the Bees. What's up, Andy?
Hey, guys. Hey, you know, you should get on these Texan social media sites. You've got people thinking that we can get Chris Jones and Mike Evans and all kind of players. Well, people don't understand this. We got to sign some free agents that's going to cost us some money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let me rip off these guys and tell me these guys that you guys want back. You want Cashman back?
I actually do at the right price.
Same.
That's going to be about $5 million a year.
Yep.
We know.
How about Perryman?
No,
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good with him going. Singletary?
Yes, at the right price.
same.
Yeah, that's about $5 million.
Yeah.
Schultz?
No, not really.
I think you can find another one cheaper.
Well, the only reason I want him back is because he was there for CJ last year.
And Stroud loves him,
think
to your point.
Yes, he
Stroud talks up Schultz. So, like, you're on to that. Like, Stroud loves that guy. So, yeah, I mean, that's the
I
thing.
know.
Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, that's a big reason why he's going to cost you $9 to $10 million a year on a multi deal, and then you want Nelson back?
No.
No.
You know what? Their Sport Track has him at $10 million a year at his age. No way.
He's
out.
looking for a
And then-
3-year deal, upwards of 10 per. Yep.
Yeah, so it's those are really some of the bigger names. And then Grenard. Grenard? They've got him making $15 million a year.
I'm out.
I'm out too.
Yeah, he doesn't play through grade
Are you
1 ankle
really?
sprains.
Yeah, well, I tell you, I think you got to replace Grenard though. Who are you going to replace him with? You're going to have to get it through the free agent. You're going to have to go get it through the draft. Because
Khalil
everybody
Mack.
else that has.
All right, Andy, we appreciate the call.
Thanks,
but,
Andy. Yeah,
you're not. Andy's going to drive the show if we let him alone.
I really thought
This
he had
is-
a.
yeah.
I thought he had a read next segment.
This is my ship now, is what Andy was telling the Killer Bees. Appreciate the
I
call,
was
Andy.
excited
We
to
do,
get a
we
new
really do.
pronunciation for that website.
Sport Track. I might just ride with it.
Track.
Appreciate the call, Andy. But Andy brings up but really good points, like this texture right now, and we talk about this too. Like 5895, I missed it. Can you list all the starters to fill again? And also, I did like a little experiment on Twitter. I was just asking people, like, do you want this guy at this price? Do you want this guy at this price? Do you want this guy at this price? And then if you just take the polls and they all say yes, you're like $100 million over the cap. So there is you have the fan point of view. Just give me everybody. Well, you can't do that because, like Andy's point, you're going to be $100 million over the cap. Here's what I have starters that you have to fill with players that aren't currently on the roster. Running back 1, Singletary's a free agent, if he even is a running back 1. Now, running back 2 is not a starter, but I would say it's pretty critical. It won't count that one, though. Tight end. You need a tight end. Dalton Schultz is not under contract. Depending on where you're at with Kenyon Green, you might need a left guard. That's a question that you have to ask yourself. I don't want to go into next offseason with Scruggs, Kenyon Green, and Jarrett Patterson. I want another interior offensive lineman, so I'm going to count it because it's my list. So that's 3. Defensive end's another one, 4. You need a defensive tackle opposite of Collins, that's 5. You need another linebacker outside of Harris, that's 6. If you're going to play a 4-3, then you need another linebacker. If you're not going to play a 4-3 and you're going to go play nickel, then you need a nickel. There's 7. You need a corner that's opposite of Derek Stingley. There's 8. And I don't think that Jimmy Ward is a starter. There's 9. And I didn't mention wide receiver 3, which I consider a starter. That's 10 guys right there. That's 10. That's 10 guys that you currently don't have an answer for, unless you're counting Jimmy Ward. I'm not. Unless you're counting Kenyon Green. I'm not. And even if you do, okay, well, there's 8. There's 8.
And we're not counting special teams.
I didn't, but you can.
Right,
Kicker, punter.
Because
They
you
did
got to
bring-
re-sign Kaimi or
Maybe not.
make a decision.
Because Kaimi Fairbairn made over the league average
sure-
at kicker.
oh, boy, he got
so if
paid,
you're
yep.
looking to save $1 million, maybe you sign a journeyman free agent, which I don't love the sound of that
I
because
don't.
that happened last year with Matt Amendola. Now, it's different when you're in season versus when you're in the offseason. But I thought the special teams were good. I would like Fairbairn back. I'd like Cam Johnston back. You already brought back the legend John Weeks, which thank goodness you can't let him leave. You got to keep him in the fold.
No, yeah, he's the next to Andre that you have to protect and make sure that that he is anointed
Yep.
to wherever he's going. No, I look, when you look at the amount of starters that you have to take care of in-house or got to go replace if you can't keep them in-house, there's just so much that's challenging with the cap and with the numbers and the balancing act. That's why I just think it's outlandish, to Andy's point, when you get all these people on all these websites that say, oh, you can go sign Mike Evans and Saquon Barkley, and then you can go out and get yourself at least another corner or a pass rush. No, you really can't.
And that's why ultimately, like, circling back to Evans, I'm probably out on Mike Evans at $20 million because I think I can draft a wide receiver 3 in the 3rd. Also, like, does player development matter? Because, like, player development's how teams are good. Xavier Hutchinson didn't play a ton. I liked what I saw from Xavier Hutchinson. John Mechie later in the year started to look a little bit like John Mechie as opposed to the first half of the year. So does player development matter? Like, those guys should be able to elevate that wide receiver room too. I like the idea of drafting a rookie receiver, and I like the idea of signing a veteran kind of bounce-back candidate. Curtis Samuel is the name that I point to. Like, I think you can get him on a pretty favorable deal, and I would be comfortable with him competing with a third-round rookie for that third receiver spot. And if they both turn out to be good, cool.
No, absolutely. And I think there's plenty of guys like that. I think Noah Fant's a guy that could easily replace Dalton Schultz at tight end and save you about $4.5 million a year right there alone. And we don't know because of the quarterbacks that and the teams that he's had to play with previously, but he's young and he still seems to have plenty left in the tank to where you could do that as well. I think Stevie Nelson's a guy. You can find another corner that's younger that isn't going to be, looking for the bag that could replace Stevie Nelson. Or you could choose in some of the mock drafts we've done. Yeah. You're going to have to, maybe they choose to go with a corner in the draft. And again, balancing your funds. Who's going to cost you the most free agency versus the draft?
It'll be hard to get a younger Steven Nelson for cheaper, though. Like, if you get in the Steven Nelson caliber corner who's younger, he's going to be more expensive than Steven Nelson.
It depends. I think like the first three corners are probably going to get the real major money, but I think there are other corners to be had that take it down a pretty – I think tier 2 is a pretty good step back.
If Steven Nelson, let's just put him on a scale of 1 to 10, if he's a 6 and there's another corner who's a 6, but he's 6 years younger – that guy's going to get more money.
Yeah, well, 6 for sure. Yeah. But I think that you could, you could get into that 3 to 5 year category where you could get a younger guy. But honestly, I think they're probably going to draft a corner.
Yeah, I do too. I think it very well could be at number 23. 713-780-ESPN. So here's my positive spin on the 8 Texans that are on the Athletics, the Athletics top 100 free agents, top 150. I kind of relate this to whenever you have hotshot coordinators that everybody else wants. Whenever you're a college football team and like somebody else that's a bigger program wants your coach. You don't want that to happen, but it means that good things are happening. Like, how many free agents were on the top 150 list last year for the Texans? Probably not very many. So when you're winning, these are kind of byproducts of winning. Same thing with Bobby Slowick. Like, he's a coveted offensive coordinator, ultimately didn't take a head coaching job, probably going to be doing the whole thing again next year. Do you want the alternative where nobody wants your guy? Absolutely not. These are the sacrifices that you have to make in order to win. It's the same thing. If the Houston Texans start building this like winning organization where every year they're winning the AFC South, they're a playoff caliber team every single year, we as a football city have to get used to you're going to lose really good players every single year, but that's a byproduct of winning.
That's a positive. It's tough because in a lot of cases, they're going to be guys that probably played above the norm or their average for you. But at the same time, you have to also understand that the market's going to dictate that a lot of guys are going to want to play for you as well because it's a positive environment. There's a chance to succeed. There's a lot of good players around you, which in a lot of cases can help to elevate what you do. So I think that the good news is it's becoming more of a destination for players that want to get into a winning situation as well as get paid. And I think that the byproduct from all that success is for sure that guys are going to walk out the door and teams are going to throw extra money at them because of the success that they've had in this building and with this team.
713-780-ESPN, HRP listener line, 713-780-3776. We've talked about John Grenard as a potential franchise tag candidate. What about Dalton Schultz as a franchise tag? 713-780-ESPN, the HRP listener line. Killer Bees, ESPN 97.5. ESPN 92.5. I like a good drink at the end of the day. Vodka, great. Gin, good. Bourbon, fantastic. They're all on the rotation for me, and Gentle Ben Spirits does it better than anybody else. How? Well, their revolutionary Persado technology that eliminates impurities for the cleanest, smoothest spirits you will ever taste. Purification of Gentle Ben is unrivaled. You'll love what's not in Gentle Ben, which includes gluten. Yeah, there's no gluten in Gentle Ben, but Gentle Ben isn't going to brag about that one. All spirits are naturally gluten-free. Try a sip of Gentle Ben vodka, the gin, straight bourbon, cask strength bourbon. Compare it to what you drink. You will never go back. I've been a Gentle Bin man ever since I had that first sip because you get all the flavor, none of the burn. Try a sip. I think you'll never go back either. It is smooth. It is clean. Eliminates the burn. Enjoy your drink. Don't work through your drink. You can find Gentle Bin at the Toyota Center. Going to a Rockets game, going to a concert. Well, stop by Bin's Bar inside the Toyota Center. Get some Gentle Bin today. Look for it at the liquor store. Ask for it at your favorite restaurant, your favorite bar. Head to the Gentle Bin tasting room. And you can order straight from the website, too. Go to gentlebin.com, learn their incredible story, the fantastic legacy that they have at Gentle Bin. But also you can order straight from the website, the vodka, the gin, the bourbon, the whiskey. Add it to your cart. They'll deliver it straight to your doorstep. It's fantastic. Gentlebin.com. Gentle Bin, the secret ingredient is what's not in it.
Time to get back to sports school with the Killer Bees, Joel Blank and Jeremy Branham, live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios on ESPN 97.5.
We've made listening and watching your favorite sports radio station even easier. We're officially streaming on the ESPN Houston YouTube channel every single day. Now you can easily listen and watch anywhere and everywhere. If you listen every day and like us, clicking our YouTube subscribe button makes a difference. So make sure you pound that subscribe. Is that how they do it on the YouTube? Let us know you're listening. What is it like? It's like it and pound that subscribe. Smash.
Smash. Yeah.
I would say
I don't know the
hammered, but I
YouTube
did it
lingo.
yesterday. I'm not doing it again.
Smash.
You think would that kill your voice if you tried to
No,
do the
I think
hammer again?
the hammered actually is easy on my voice. The Colonel McLean is not easy on the voice.
Subscribe if you've not already done so. And remember, viewers, smash that like button. Smash it. The emphasis really matters. 713-780-ESPN HRMP listener line. 9723, I think Houston can replace tight end, wide receiver, and cornerback all in the first 3 rounds of the draft. I think that's dangerous to go into the draft with that mindset. Maybe 2 of the 3.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if there's a whole lot of tight ends that are ready to start day one in this
Sam
draft.
Laporta is ruining this for everybody.
Probably.
Most tight ends are not like George
And last
Kittle.
year's draft in general. Like, last year's draft in general was super tight end heavy.
And the one that's a slam dunk that's going to start right away is going to be gone
Brock
way
Bowers?
before. Yeah, Brock Bowers is going to be gone way before you pick.
The Texas kid Sanders.
Yeah, Jatavion Sanders.
Like, is he a day one starter? Yeah, the people say he's injury prone.
99% of tight ends are not day one starters.
And then Cade Stover's a popular name I've seen because he played at Ohio State with C.J. Stroud. Like, he's a 3rd, 4th round grade. That's not a day one starter in the NFL.
Besides Laporta, look at the other guys that were supposed to be first round picks, all of them, and were supposed to start right away. The big kid from Georgia didn't start at Pittsburgh.
No, he wasn't very good.
The kid from Oregon State that the Packers took didn't start, and he was way behind in terms of route running and learning the playbook.
Dalton Kincaid was really good, though.
And Kincaid was good with the
second
Bills.
half of the season.
In the second half of the season. And then the Notre Dame tight end that slipped to the second
Michael
round.
Mayer.
With the Raiders. He was not very good.
Yeah, he was kind of their second tight end all
Yeah.
year. 5.89. So I'm comfortable with corner and receiver because I think these drafts are this draft is heavy in corner and receiver. I don't think the same about tight end.
See, that's why I think you could get the starter D-line and corner first 2 rounds, and then you don't need a number 1 starter wide receiver in the 3rd round, just a complimentary receiver that replaces one of the guys you're getting rid of to complement Tank and Nico.
713-780-ESPN. 5895, draft D-line round 1, O-line round 2, round 3 receiver, rest you sign free agent. Decent corner will be cheaper than a decent D-line, O-line, or receiver. I think there's a couple of defensive line names that could become available that are cap casualties that I could be somewhat interested in, but it's kind of secondary players. So that's like the case for John Grenard.
Well, and also the question then becomes, if they're not as good as Rankins was, why are you walking away from Rankins?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, D'Amico said they need to get better
Yeah,
there.
he did.
It's weird. If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. That's what the saying was. 713-780-ESPN. So we've spent a lot of time talking about John Grenard as a franchise tag candidate. And again, the CBS figure is a little different than other people that have reported. But it lists the defensive end at just over $20 million. We've kicked around John Grenard at $20 million. But a name that we have not mentioned for a franchise tag is Kaimi Fair. Actually, that could be the case. But I'm talking about Dalton Schultz here. Dalton Schultz, tight end for the Texans. In fact, CBS lists Dalton Schultz as a potential franchise tag player. When we talk about Dalton Schultz, we talk about him like on a $10, $11, $12 million deal. The franchise tag at tight end is projected, according to CBS, at just over $12 million. So it's a 1-year tag for Dalton Schultz at 12. Of course, you only get one franchise tag a year. You don't have to use it. What about the idea, instead of going long-term with Schultz, and when I say long-term with Schultz, I mean like 3 years, just slapping the tag on Dalton Schultz?
I guess it's only. I get it. It's only for 1 year, but 12 seems so high to me.
I think that's what he'll get. I think he'll get 12.
Now
On the open market?
I think so.
Now,
For
are
how
you
many
talking
years?
over a multiple-year
Yeah,
deal or just
for how
1
many
year?
years?
I think 2-3 years. I think he'll get $12 million per
high.
2-3
Schultz,
years.
It
Schultz
does,
just
it
feels
does.
like just a guy to me. Like he's a good.
I don't disagree.
Well, because
he's a good tight end, but
he's a good pass catching tight
Yeah,
end. He's
exactly.
He's not a good blocking
I
tight end.
think his hands are questionable.
and he had,
well,
he
yeah.
dropped some
Other
key
than the one
passes.
catch in Tennessee, I
Good
think
point.
that everyone has his overrating.
I
his
think
hands.
12's too high. I
I mean,
couldn't do that.
he's been offered a $12 million per year deal before. We forget that.
Cowboys offered 3 and 33.
36.
Was it 36?
Yeah, I just Googled it. 3 for 36. That's $12 million a year,
I
and
thought
that
it
was 2
11.
years ago.
And even still, I think that's high.
And now he did enter free agency last year and didn't come near that.
Yeah,
so
it'd be
that's the
doubling
counterpoint.
his what he got paid last year. He got paid $6 million last year.
Now, is it?
It was.
fair,
I think it was incentives upwards to like 8, 9, something like
Okay.
that.
Is
Still.
it fair to say that if you give him 3 years at less per, because he said that he would like to meet in the middle. He said they could find a common ground. He really wants to be here, and not that he's going to give you a big hometown discount, but if you add an extra year, give him say 3, but give him an average of 8 or 9.
I don't think he does that.
You don't?
I think he might do 10.
You're hitting on what my cap where I would cap it though. I mean, honestly, I'd
Double
cap
digits?
it basically
8
like
or 9.
3 years and what you would pay Mike Evans for a single year.
I wouldn't
like
give him
3
double
years,
digits.
22, 23. I'd be fine with that. Anything beyond, see you later.
I would go up to 9. I go up to 9 for Schultz. And I'm not going into double digits. So whenever I ask the question, do you franchise tag him at 12? I'm out on that.
Yeah, I'm not.
I'm not franchise tagging him at 12.
Again, I think I looked it up this morning. The average on Fant of what he's going to get is like 5.6. If you only have to pay 5.6 for Noah Fant, I'll live with that.
Yeah.
I think that's a decent enough replacement. He's young enough that he could give you multiple years, and with a quarterback like CJ, better than he's ever played with, he might really be the kind of tight end that he was supposed to be when he came out of college.
I think the fear with that, though, is if you go into free agency without already having that starting tight end, it's the unknown of not being able to get a guy, or all of a sudden the price suddenly goes up. So where does the Brevin Jordan factor of this come into play? Like, is Brevin Jordan enough insurance as a tight end too, where if the prices get too high on Schultz in free agency, Fant in free agency, Hunter Henry in free agency, where you don't want to pay their price, that you're good enough going into next season with maybe a guy that you draft, but Brevin Jordan as your penciled in number 1 tight end?
Look, I know that everybody was enamored with the playoff catch and the speed on the sideline and what he was able to do. I think Brevin Jordan is a good member of that tight end room. I don't know that he's ready to start, but at the same time, everybody remembers the good plays of Dalton Schultz, and they love the fact that he's big brother to CJ. But when you start going plus minus, and I always go to the whiteboard and say positives, negatives, for as many good catches as he had drops. And he doesn't block. And unless that kind of personal relationship is so big that they are afraid to move on, they don't want to ruffle CJ's feathers. And I don't think that should factor in this soon, but I'm sure it will. I just don't want to pay him upwards of $10 million a year. I think you start with Brevin Jordan. And the one thing we haven't mentioned with tight ends is there's a possibility of cap casualties with tight ends, too, to where you could find a guy before you get through free agency or the draft.
I don't have the fear of going into free agency without a tight end. Like, I'm good enough with Brevin Jordan where the prices get too high on tight end, which I do think is a long shot. I think that you can find an affordable tight end. Mm-hmm. I'm okay enough with Brevin Jordan that I'm not fearful of going to free agency with no one else in that position.
You could also trade, right? You could also
you don't see that very often, though.
But if you go to right before you go to camp, if there's a team that again feels like that they've got a veteran that's taking up time from a young guy, maybe they drafted a young guy or they're paying too much, there are teams that will there's still a means. I'm not saying it's ideal.
I think it's really, really rare to trade for a starting player right before camp. Like, you don't see that very often.
I just think that it's not like the door's completely shut if they don't get one in free agency and they don't draft one. I think there's going to be possibilities for them if that's the route that they want to go. Yeah. But at least you have one guy that knows the system that could start for you if you had to.
If you go into, let's say you miss out on free agent tight end, and you're going into the draft with Brevin Jordan, you're your tight end 1. Is that enough for you? Are you okay? Like, it's not ideal, but it's something that you can live through. It's survivable.
I think it might make me want to look at tight end earlier in the draft than I was going to before. It's still not first round, but maybe it makes me look at Jatavion Sanders or somebody of that ilk in the second or the third round.
Quentin Tarantino still under contract.
I just think that the one thing that's going to be challenging, but it's the variable we don't know, which is when you look at what they're going to do in free agency first, then, and I hate the fact that free agency comes before the draft, that you look at it and say, that's what's so tough for us to predict is the fact that, we don't know what they're going to do in free agencies to how it relates to the draft. And then I don't know if anybody in the draft is capable of coming in and being a day one starter. So now you're hoping for a cap casualty between now and free agency that maybe kind of opens your eyes and says, okay, maybe we can go this route. And unfortunately, it might send the message earlier than you might have expected that Schultz is gone.
6927 Mercedes Lewis will always be there as a backup plan. That's got to be Keith. Keith likes this.
Right.
It's got to be Keith.
But Mercedes Lewis played in the league last year.
He's 39, though.
I know. Believe me, he was in Green Bay except for last year for multiple years. He's got nothing left in the tank other than pass blocking. But yeah, you don't need. He's playing, but very, very little.
5912. What about Kyle Pitts for a second or a third? I don't think the Falcons would be interested in trading him for a second or a third. If I can get him for a third, I wouldn't trade it.
I would trade a third for him, but there's no way the Falcons would take that.
I don't think so.
Justin Fields is liking him and Bijan Robinson and what's his name? Drake London.
Drake London.
Yeah, he's liking all of their Twitters today.
Well, you saw he unfollowed the Bears on the socials.
Well, you saw who Saquon Barkley's following.
A lot of
every Texan that exists.
Yep.
Is
he's following J.J. Watt. He's following C.J. Stroud. He's following Nico Collins. He's following Tank Dell, and he's following Brevin Jordan.
Now, Brevin Jordan, you're only following Brevin. You're not when you're naming off the other guys on the list. He could just follow them because they're good players in the league.
Big Ten
you're only following
Brevin
Jordan if you want to come here.
Maybe they were friends in the Big Ten because Saquon was at Michigan.
Did they play?
Was at Penn State.
Grow up together or play together at some point?
You never know. They know each other for something. Now, but to follow all of those Texans, and I think it's recent, and then J.J. Watt on top of it, that means Saquon's coming and J.J. Watt's coming out of retirement.
It means Saquon would love to play here. Yeah.
Book it.
I'm sure he would. A Shanahan-style offense, I'm sure he would.
So I heard Lance say that he's not like a great fit. He's kind of a dancer in the backfield, which doesn't fit.
He does.
7151 Hunter Henry for cheaper. Signed Gabe Davis, a receiver, and Derrick Henry at running back. I'm a fan of that. I would love that offseason.
Gabe Davis has already basically said goodbye to Buffalo, so he's out there.
Yeah. 4403. I love how people want certain positions each round. You take BPA at position of need, which is every position minus quarterback. Completely agree. All right, 713-780-ESPN, HRP listener line. Alex Bregman, is he as good as gone? And there's a couple of things that I've noticed about Bregman at the start of camp that I'm not too comfortable with. It's the Killer Bees on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5.
Guys, now is such a great time to have a MyBookie account. I'm always telling you about getting a MyBookie account and all the benefits that you get once you get on board with MyBookie and using our promo code BET975. But now, because of the fact that you've got NBA and college hoops, you've got golf back on the slate again, and soccer and all the different sporting events, hockey, it's just an awesome time that when you're watching the tube and you're looking for something to do, you can put some money down on a game that comes on and you can make it more interesting. It's just that simple. And MyBookie's more than a sports book. Real-life Vegas experiences are happening all the time from the comfort of your home because they have live dealers standing by. Poker, blackjack, roulette, you name it, they got it, and they are going to get you the casino experience, but you don't have to leave the house and go to Lake Charles or Vegas to get it done. All you got to do, mybookie.ag, click on bonuses. See all the great ways to turn your deposit into bonus cash, whether you're new to MyBookie or you're reloading as an existing customer, or you can even refer a friend. Any way that you can get bonus cash is explained there, and you can use the promo code BET975 to get them. All you got to do to start today, go to mybookie.ag. Always use our promo code BET975. Do what I always tell you to do. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. With the only place I tell you to do it, go to mybookie.ag and use the promo code BET975.
It's time to sit back, relax, and enjoy this next bit of brilliance with Joel and Jeremy, live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios. It's the Killer Bees.
I'm so excited! I'm so scared!
Jesse.
That's how I feel about Alex Bregman in 2024, Blinkers. I'm worried about a couple of things.
That's it. Excited, though.
Well, you didn't hear the end.
No.
I'm so you never watch Saved by the Bell?
No.
Where
I did
Jessica
not.
was popping
Screech-
caffeine pills?
Screech was-
Caffeine pills, man.
I think
Caffeine
Screech is
pills.
one of the Wisconsinites that people would like to disown.
Yeah, he's had some
rest in
things
peace.
come
He's
up.
no longer with us.
R.I.P.,
Speak
but I'm
well
just
of
telling
those
you,
who are no
people
longer
will-
with us.
People are not going to ever speak well of Screech's and his association.
What did he
with
do? Did he
He had some things come
porn,
up post
drugs,
yeah.
assault?
Yeah.
Did he do bad things with milk?
No, but cheese, maybe. I don't know.
Anyways, that's how I feel about Bregman in 2024. There's two things I don't love what I've seen from Bregman. He met with the media a couple days ago. We'll play some Bregman sound here in a second. But he said he's 23 pounds heavier than what he reported last spring training when he checked in, which he looks beefier. Remember he did this a couple of years ago and then couldn't stay healthy? Couldn't stay healthy. It was like hamstring, quad.
Some people's frame, and I go back to...
He's got a skinny man's frame.
I was going to say, I go back to the stories of my buddies that worked for the Oilers back in the day when Lamar Lathan was playing linebacker, and they said he had his skeleton and his frame was not meant to have that much muscle. And when you pack on that much muscle that quickly, your body breaks down.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that he's 23 pounds heavier. And I'm being sincere. Like, I'm being serious. He did this 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever it was, and the dude couldn't stay healthy. Could not stay healthy. So I don't like that Alex Bregman has added weight. I'm not a fan of that. I will be monitoring that very, very closely. And then secondly, he did this last year, and I just kind of bit my tongue. I didn't say anything. I hate his swing right now.
I
don't
saw
know
you
if
breaking down the top hand the other day.
And then I talked about it on Twitter, and then somebody slid into my DMs and like, hey, there's this other guy that's a hitting coach that has the same exact opinion that you do. He actually coached Aaron Judge, and he's talking about like where he's, his core's at and where he's locking his body. The thing that I don't like, though, is his hands are way out in front of his body, and he's literally keeping his right palm up, which, I mean, it looks like he's trying to keep his barrel through the plane longer, but I feel like you're losing all power. I relate it to hitting a fade in golf. And if you're hitting a fade in golf, like, you're losing 10 yards because you're just not flipping over the wrist. You're not getting that power. You're not getting the club head speed. I don't know where he's going to get power if he continues to hit fades with the baseball bat.
Well, the other thing that I don't like is I think he's pushing the pedal down way too far too fast on trying to make sure that this is his big season, breakout season when he's betting on himself. The fact that you just mentioned the combination, but if you're going with the combo platter of adding 20-plus pounds of weight and then still tinkering with your swing, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. In a lot of ways, look, his knowledge of the strike zone and his ability to lay off pitches is one of the biggest strengths he has.
Yeah.
And the fact that, this field is very much tailor-made for him, but even if he doesn't have massive pop, playing the power alleys and playing his game, he should be just fine. But when you start trying to do all of this in this like mad off season to get ready for the bet on me season, it is kind of scary.
Those are the two things that I'm going to be keeping a close eye with Bregman. And like, I noticed this August last year, and he had a good August. He had like 959 OPS. I would take that. But his homers actually slipped. He went down in homers. Hit 4 in August, and then September, October to finish the regular season, 3 homers, and his OPS went down to 751. So it's like, I don't know if I like this new swing, Bregman.
If he hits 25 home runs like he did last year, though,
Crow.
It's fine.
That's
yeah,
fine.
I mean, I'm not complaining at that.
No. If it's under 20, then I think I'm onto something. If it's over 20, I think what I'm saying right now is moot.
And
even 20. I'll put the number 20.
The thing that to me with the weight, too, is does it affect him defensively at all, too? Because rangy is going to be one thing, and then, depending on how bulky he is in his upper body, I mean, you're still going to be diving and doing a lot of things, and you got to get up and throw. And if you're bulked up, that a lot of that could have a lot of negative effect on the defensive side.
Some of that weight, though, will shed over the course of actually playing games and being in competition again. I would expect
have you seen
him
the buffets that they get after games?
I would expect him to keep 23 pounds over the course of the season.
He did say that he loses weight during the year. So that's something that comes into play. Like, he said he's going to try to like keep it on this year, but he looks stronger.
Yeah.
Like, he does look a little wider. You can get away with the size, I think, a little bit at third base as opposed to like middle infield. Like, you don't have to be as rangy.
Right.
But his defense is a big part of his game. I'm concerned about the injury because he did this a couple years ago when he got hurt. And then if he loses power, then I think I'm onto something. But if he's 20 or more, then what I'm saying is I'm just an idiot that talks behind a microphone. Now, y'all brought up the contract situation, and here was Bregman talking about the contract, the aforementioned contract, or the lack of that contract.
As when it comes to the contract, I just let Scott do that. That's why I have an attorney working for me. Just like all these guys have agents and attorneys. So let them handle that, and yeah.
Has the team made an offer?
No, not yet.
There you go. No offer yet for Alex Bregman. I don't think one's coming either.
He gone. Yeah, and that's where I wanted to go with this segment. Like, when you look at the Astros' actions and what they've said, nothing about it suggests that they have any intention in paying the money that it would take to bring Alex Bregman back. What was the quote from Dana Brown a week ago that we'll make, quote, some type of offer?
Yeah.
That's not serious language.
No.
It's not you're not serious if you're not if here we are, spring training. I mean, they've already reported you haven't made a single offer yet. You're clearly not serious about trying to keep Alex Bregman, which is fine. I'm not mad mad about it, but they're not trying to bring him back.
No, we've seen this play out before. This is a rerun for all the guys that have come before him, like Correa, like the guys that in Springer, like they're going to make an offer at some point to cover their ass. They're going to be able to say, hey, we gave him our best offer. We went to try and get him. He thought he could get more in free agency. We appreciate Alex Bregman and all the time he's had for the Astros. I think that's exactly why they do what they do. They're going to put all their eggs in the basket of this season, try to win one more with him, and at the end of the year, they're going to do what they've done with the multiple players before him and say, we gave it a shot. It wasn't in the cards, but he'll always be an Astro at heart.
I think they'll give him an offer, but it will be a Carlos Correa offer where it's like, okay, that's not. I'm going to use that offer to blow my nose. Like that's the type of offer it's going to be. It's not going to be worth the paper it would cost to print on it. And I'm okay with that. Like I nothing that Alex Bregman like. We need to know the figure. Like the terms always matter, but like people are saying 300 for 10 is flat out stupid.
His market value, at least the estimation
on Sport Rack.
Yeah, his Sport Track is 9 years, $281 million.
No chance.
There's
That's
no
over
chance.
$30 million.
And again, I knew he was chasing Machado type money, but even that, there's no way they're going either side. They're not going 9 years. They're not going 280 plus million. None of it makes sense, and the only thing I can say is good luck if you can get it from somebody else, because there's always a fool in the room that's going to overpay.
Takes one.
And all it does is take one, but I'm glad it won't be the Astros, because I will not fault them at all if they balk at an offer like that and he goes somewhere else. Sure, it's going to suck to lose him because I like what he's brought to this team over the years, but there's no way he's worth that here, and I don't think anywhere else.
And if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make dollars.
I mean, the shame of it is he was worth it.
I intentionally got it wrong.
He intentionally got it wrong. Like, if you look at his 2018, 2019 numbers, the shame of it is he was worth it at that time. But the problem is,
but we haven't seen that since.
Right, he's been far too inconsistent since then. He has a hot first half and he trails off. He has a slow first half, picks up in the second half.
His swing looks broken.
I know you're going back to the swing, but
not only that, Jeremy, but think about how many times he was a master of the strike zone, and
he's
basically,
still that. He is still that.
I would still say,
yeah, he's still
but
that.
He tinkered way more than he ever has with his actual stance and swing last year.
He's definitely a tinkerer. He's always tinkering, but he's still elite in plate discipline and
I agree.
in
His
contact.
strike zone is he's one of the best.
That and his defense yeah, I would say his defense is elite.
The only reason why his defense wouldn't be elite is his throwing arm, because it's not a rifle and a cannon. But other than that, he picks just about everything.
The reason that I hesitated, like his defense isn't as elite as his plate discipline and his ability to make contact with the baseball. He is elite in those traits. His defense is really, really good, borderline elite. It's not as good as his plate discipline.
And I think that he might not hit traditional third baseman can hit for a lot more power sometimes. But I think he more than makes up with it because of the plate discipline and the fact that he's clutch. The big moment's never too big for him, and he seemingly doesn't hit for great average all the time.
Yeah.
But he seems to get the big hit when you need it, and he's a better than average hitter.
The Manny Machado totally screwed up the third base market, I think, because I don't think Manny Machado is worth what he got. But I'm really curious to see what Matt Chapman
I was going to say, you and I, and the more you brought it up after we had talked about it, I don't think he's going to get as much as you think he's going to get. I think that he's going to be one of those guys kind of left holding the bag.
Yeah,
sure.
I think his power dropped off too much last year to really give him that contract.
I think that Bregman and Chapman are more like, I think Bregman's contract's going to be closer to Chapman's contract than Bregman's contract to Machado's contract.
I think both Chapman and Bregman have grandiose expectations, and they're going to be disappointed. I think they're going to get far less than anything Machado got.
He's a Boris guy, so he already wants too much. Plus, he's hot like 1 month out of the year for several seasons. Altuve's a Boris guy, too, though. Like the attorney, as Bregman mentioned Boris as, is going to do what the client wants. I mean, Altuve signed for less than market value. Corey, when Bregman leaves, who will y'all miss the most out of the Astro players that have left?
Oh boy,
Martin Maldonado. That's easy.
No, come on. You miss mound visits.
I would actually say Garrett Cole.
Oh, well, yeah.
I would say Garrett Cole because he's the best player that has left.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Just from that standpoint alone, I might say as much as I think they made the right call in a lot of the other guys that they've walked away from. And I think the one that got away to me is Charlie Morton.
Yeah.
I think Charlie Morton was more than reasonably priced.
Either.
Yeah, he was more than reasonably priced, and he hasn't really fallen off all that much. Charlie Morton would have been a guy that still would have been a staple here.
Yeah, for the salary, that's a good call. Michael Schwab, the czar of Astros Twitter, he tweets at us at least a qualifying offer for Bregman to get that compensation pick. That's a good call. Like, they're not going to let him leave without getting that qualifying offer, but Bregman won't take that qualifying offer. But you get the comp pick, which is good to rebuild the minor league system. 713-780-ESPN, the HRMP listener line, 713-780-3776. Speaking of infielders, I'm sick and tired of a certain notion when it comes to Jeremy Pena. Tell you what it is next. Killer Bees, ESPN 97.5, ESPN 92.5. First, a moment on HR&P, Human Resources and Payroll. It's Cougar owned by Mike Holly. Go Cougs. He used to protect Heisman Trophy winners. Now he wants to protect you. HR&P members of the Cougar 100 for the 8th year in a row, almost a decade now. You've seen the HR&P sign at U of H games. You've seen their beautiful building off the Beltway with that U of H flag hanging outside of it. But business owners, let HR&P help you. That's what it ultimately comes down to. Whether it's HR compliance, benefits administration, payroll, onboarding, HR&P can help in any of those areas. They can help in all of those areas. They can help in one of those areas. Anywhere in between, too. Whatever you need. Because there's no boxes with HR&P. It doesn't matter how small the job, how big the job. HR&P completely customizes a plan for whatever you need, whatever your business needs. If you have a problem, you have an issue, big problem, little problem, whatever. You just want to take a little off your plate, you want to take a lot off your plate. HR&P will work with you to customize a plan for what you need. Nothing cookie cutter. You're not choosing off a menu. You're going to work with them to figure out the best plan to go forward. And they do it in a way that's unique, too. Technology meets service. They have the best technology. You won't have to worry about that. You'll love that. It's fantastic. But their service is what you'll really fall in love with. Guaranteed fulfillment. You'll never talk to a stranger. You'll always be talking to someone who knows you and they know your business needs. Give them a call right now, 281-880-6525, and let HR&P customize a plan for you, 281-880-6525, or check them out at hrp.net. That's hrp.net.
Back to the Killer Bees on ESPN 97.5. The show name is a reference to how many great Astros' last name begin with the letter B, who were playing back in the 90s when they were not winning World Series. Bagwell, Biggio, Barry, Bell, and eventually Bergman. You might not remember Barry and Bell, but trust me, you'll remember Blank and Brenham. Here they are now, live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios.
Matthew on the ESPN Houston YouTube, where all the intelligent conversation is had. He says 2025 Will Wagner or DeCinzo season. I think that's how you say it. Zach DeCinzo. I've heard that they're pretty high on him, says my sauces.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
I know that they're going to get a steady dose of Will Wagner at AAA, I think, this year to try and figure out what he truly is, because there's some people that are high on him, too.
They say he can hit. From what I've read, he's a really good hitter. They worry about his glove a little bit. But DeCinzo, somebody, like, I think it's between those two guys. Like, they're hoping one of those two guys emerges. If not, then you're kind of, what are you going to do? Like, you're in a little bit of trouble at third base. Otherwise, you're either overspending on Bregman, or you're looking for a bridge guy, which, I mean, Jeremy Pena was once a bridge guy, right?
Altuve was once one, too.
That's what they told him.
Yep.
Which is unbelievable.
Crazy, but true.
Yeah. I wonder if he embellished at all in that story.
I don't think so, because no
It's
matter.
a weird thing to tell a player you're calling up.
Yeah, but I think that everything was stacked against him.
Sure.
So that they probably said, in their office, in their meetings, hey, great story, but I don't know how this translates to the major league level. We'll see. But, yeah, I don't know that you would express that to the player.
Yeah, I don't think that you bring up Altuve and you're like, hey, Jose, you're just going to be here for a few weeks. You're going to start bridge until Kiki Hernandez takes your spot.
Given Altuve's story about being sent home from the tryout and having to beg for a job and all that, and,
sure,
and they were a little slow to bring him up. I remember some radio hosts here banging on the table trying to get Altuve called up. I don't think the Astros ever really intended him to be their long-term solution at second base. Maybe they didn't tell him
that's
he
what
was
I'm
the
no way you
bridge.
could have predicted that
I think
he was going to be who he turned out to be.
I think it's more he read the writing on the wall than it was like Jeff Luhnow's like, hey, Jose, you're not our full-time second baseman. Just enjoy this cup of coffee.
Right.
And he got called up at 21.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not old.
It's not old. No, it's not as long as they kept Pence down in the farm. But I think he was ready before they actually brought him up.
Yeah, he was tearing it up in the minors.
Yeah, and it was also at a time when it wasn't going to hurt anybody to see what they got and get him up on the major league level and see what he could do.
They were losing 100 games that year.
Yeah, and then he showed them a whole hell of a lot more they were expecting, probably.
So I'm a little concerned about Bregman. He's fat. He's been eating too much salsa in his swing. He's hitting a bunch of fades.
Wait a minute.
He got
put
fat
on
on
weight,
the bad
which could have been
salsa?
muscle, but now he's fat.
He's 23 pounds overweight. I can relate. I know when somebody's 23 pounds overweight. I look in the mirror every morning. But one guy that I'm high on, he's eating that Wild Soul or whatever that terrible salsa is called. They changed their name because they weren't selling any Breggy Bomb salsa. It was on the clearance racks at Kroger. But the guy that I am excited about is Jeremy Pena. And you know why I'm excited for Jeremy Pena? Launch angle. That's why I'm excited about Jeremy Pena. But I am tired of a notion when it comes to Jeremy Pena. And maybe I'm sticking up for him because, we have the first name brethren. Like, he's my first name brethren. So I feel like it is my civic Jeremy duty to stick up for Jeremy Pena. But we've heard this narrative like all offseason. Jeremy Pena took a step backwards last year. He wasn't as good as he was in his rookie year. Year 2 Pena, not as good as year 1 Pena. And I'm sick of that narrative. I'll concede that he lost power. There's no doubt about that. It's because of the angle of the launch. It was not very good. He's bringing launch angle back again. It's making it sexy again. But his average in year 2 versus year 1 was up 10 points. His on-base percentage in year 2 versus year 1 was up 35 points. His walk percentage went from just under 4 to just under 7. It almost, not going to quite say it almost doubled, but it improved significantly. His K percentage dropped from 24% to 20.5%. So while you can say, well, he didn't hit the home runs, he improved everywhere else offensively. His average, his on-base percentage, he walked more, he struck out less. People were like losing their minds about year 2 Jeremy Pena. I saw a lot of positives in year 2 Jeremy Pena.
But there's no doubt, Jeremy, but you know exactly why. Because year 1.5 Jeremy Pena or year 1.25 Jeremy Pena was the playoffs with the 2 MVPs and being a big reason why that they won the World Series. And that was and we talked about it before the season even started, the false and not fair narrative on Jeremy Pena from a fan base is going to be pick up where you left off in the playoffs and try and sustain that, which was not realistic. And if he did what he did in year 1, he's better than most shortstops in baseball because of how good he is defensively. And yet that wasn't what was going through people's heads. And that's how people are turning to be hypercritical of Jeremy Pena, because instead of being World Series MVP Jeremy Pena, like unfairly people thought, he just picked up where he left off and was the same kind of shortstop he was when he replaced Carlos Correa and did a hell of a good job.
I would be more comfortable with the take if we hadn't seen such large spans of time where Pena completely fell off. Like, remember his rookie year, he was amazing in April and May. Like, he went into June hitting over 300, and then he absolutely plummeted until he got to the postseason.
He was awful the rest of the year.
Right, exactly. And then last year, you mentioned you're correct. You know, a lot of his slash lines went up across the board, but you can't go the entire second half with 0 home runs and not have. I just can't buy that there's no reason for concern when you hit 0 home runs over the second half.
But look what he did. As a true maturing major league player, he looked in the mirror, he looked at the tape, he realized, I think a lot of the reasons why he struggled was because he was still trying to swing for the fences all the time. Because maybe he was paying too much attention to the people that were saying, you're not hitting the bombs like you used to hit the bombs. When in this lineup, in this offense, he could be more beneficial to himself and the team if he just takes the ball the other way and learns how to hit that outside breaking pitch and puts the bat on the baseball. He's still got speed. He's got some pop for the power alleys. He can do a lot of good things right without having to swing for the fences.
But that's what he did last year.
Later in the season, that's what he did.
I mean, his power was gone last year, and he walked more, and he struck out less. He was spitting on that breaking ball off the plate more often. It wasn't completely gone. Like, he didn't fix it completely. He wasn't 100% better, but it was better.
But I think where he really did it was he kind of fine-tuned his swing in the last month and a half of the season, where he shortened it up a little bit and just stopped swinging the big, long swings for the fence.
Are you a little worried that he's continually changing his batting stance, though? Like, because he messed with it all last season, and we've already seen reports early since the Astros reported that he's made another tweak to his swing.
I saw, I am the, they're claiming that I'm the hitting coach on the Twitch, which, I mean, they can call me that if they want. They can call me a genius, too, if they want. He is quieter. Like, he's quieter with his bat. And I like I don't like a lot of movement.
I agree.
Now, I mean, you have your dudes who have been really, really good with a lot of movement. Like, look what Gary Sheffield did. Gary Sheffield was constantly in movement. Yeah, I mean, Gary Sheffield was cocking his wrist up until, like, the ball was 25 feet away and was an elite hitter. But I'm a fan of a quiet approach. I like that a lot more. So I like what Jeremy Pena has done. And you can also see there's a little bit more. I mean, I'm joking about the launch angle. Not really. Like, I kind of am. Like, I'm being over the top, sarcastic about it. But he is trying to get more lift.
Yeah.
He's trying to get more lift to the ball to drive it out of the park.
Like swinging it, like the big sweeping under the baseball, he's kind of leveled it off with a little bit of an up tilt, and it looks really good. He said that he still has movement in his hands for his timing and feeling that. I'm good as long as the bat's not waving all over the place like a wand. And that he can just kind of set his back foot, be calm, and then when it's time, explode onto the baseball. I don't have any doubts about him. We've talked about this in the past when people were also turning the narrative to the fact that he's not a very good defensive shortstop, which is also just ridiculous. You were spoiled by what Correa did here, and no one's going to be the next Carlos Correa in this organization for the next however many years with a cannon to do the kind of things that he did. But he's an above-average defensive shortstop that does a lot of good for you.
I think above average is a little disrespectful.
I'm just selling it like without going overboard by saying he's a very good shortstop defensively.
Correa and Pena last year were pretty similar offensive players. Pena hit 263, Correa hit 230. Pena had a 324 on base, Correa had a 312 on base. Their OPS, Pena was 705, Correa was 711. And Jeremy Pena is getting paid the rookie salary because Correa is getting over $30 million a year. So, like, you're right. The playoff Jeremy Pena kind of changed probably the perspective on who Jeremy Pena really was. I think this is another example of that we're expecting these players to be finished products like that. If Jeremy Pena can combine power of year one with average on base, a little better eye, a little more contact of year two, and put it all together, and then you add the defense where he's already won a Gold Glove, and all of a sudden he becomes a 265 hitter that hits 15 to 20 home runs, that has a Gold Glove capable defense at shortstop. That's a really good baseball player.
No doubt about it. And don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm not saying.
No, I am not.
Yeah. The fact is that you and I were defending Jeremy Pena's defense and the fact that he should be up for another Gold Glove, and he was doing all the things that the best shortstops in baseball do. Because unfairly, people expected him to be Carlos Correa's rocket arm and all these other things. And none of that's realistic. And he caught a lot of unfair expectations across the board. But I'm very, very pleased with what he's done in his first 2 years, and I expect him to have, I think, a better year this year, both on offensively and defensively.
Launch angle.
You're really caught up on that launch angle.
Launch angle. Big deal for Jeremy
Mound
Pena.
visits have been buried, and now it's all about launch angle, shortstop.
That's right.
The only concern I have on the idea of, and I agree with you. Look, it's his second year in the league. He's not a finished product, but he was also an older guy coming up. He's in his age 26 season or in the season, so it's not like this is a 23-year-old guy who's still physically maturing. I have hope that he can turn around this year, but if he doesn't, I don't think we're going to suddenly see something in the future. He's going to be he's 26 now, he'll be 27 next season. I think we're kind of getting to the point where what we see is what we're going to get.
But you said turn it around. I don't think he has to turn it around.
Zero home runs in the second half. He's got to hit he's got to hit some home runs.
I don't think he has to.
As a shortstop, I think that's the misnomer that suddenly
I'm not
shortstop
saying he
is
has
a power
to hit
hitting
30,
position.
but he can't hit 10 a year.
I mean, it depends on what his
Depends on the rest of
other
his
stuff
lineup,
looks
too.
like. I mean, if he's hitting 290 with 10 homers, I would take it. You know?
Sure, but I think
it depends on
290
the
is an
other-
unrealistic
I do too.
expectation.
I do too. Like, I think that you need a combination of these 2 years where you hit 260, 265, and you hit 20 homers. Like,
15
I would
to
take
20,
that
I'd be
with
fine.
Pena.
15
And, I mean,
to 20, I'd be fine.
He hit 22 in year one. Like, he's capable. He's got the power. Like, I mean, look at him. He's got the power. And
No,
whenever
that's
he hits
for sure,
the
but that's
ball,
why I
maybe
worry
that's
about
a problem, too.
messing with the swing.
I think
it's like
I think
clearly,
it's definitely swing.
Yeah.
It's definitely swing. Like, he wasn't getting launched last year, and I think this year he's going to try to hit the ball into the air. In Fuentes on the Twitch says if Pena just hit 250, we would be good. He said and learned to lay off the off speed. We would have been satisfied. We would have been satisfied he didn't regress. He hit 263. The texter OG, another good defensive shortstop who hits 240 with a 690 OPS. Pena hit 263 with a 705 OPS and didn't hit a home run past the summer. So, like, this is like everybody's perspective of Jeremy Pena being incredibly off. Another texter said, we kept watching him slide down the batting order. Our bad, LOL. Look, while I'm defending Jeremy Pena, Dusty Baker moving Pena around the lineup wasn't great. And Joe Espada actually said today that we want to get a fixed spot for Jeremy Pena. I know that Jeremy Pena hits really well in the two-hole lifetime. Jeremy Pena is probably your 7th or 8th best hitter on this team.
Yeah, not with
and
this
a
lineup.
7th or 8th best hitter on a team should not be batting second. If you want to give Jeremy Pena protection and a fixed spot in the lineup, he should be batting 9th.
No question about it. I mean, if you're playing for a mid-market team that's struggling, to financially put a good team out there on the field, then maybe you bat him in the 2-hole. In this lineup, on this team, with the capable bats that are at the top part of that lineup, I don't think there's any way he should be hitting second in this lineup. He should be between 6 and 9, and he should be fine.
This 6146, if Bregman leaves, Pena needs to have more than 0 homers in the second half. What Pena does should not be at all correlated with Alex Bregman does. That's up to the GM building a team. 4-3-2-1, just not just the launching disappeared, but people on base, he couldn't get a hit. And if he did, it was a single or a walk. I think whatever he does this year will decide if we keep him or ship him out. Jeremy Pena is going to be the starting shortstop for the Houston Astros for this season, his 3rd year, and then the next 3 years after this. Like, he's cheap. He's an above-average shortstop, even if he hits what he did in the first 2 years. Jeremy Pena is your shortstop through the rest of his contract.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. Sure, Bregman might be, but those are two totally different individual stories. One's going to end probably real quick after the season, and the other one's going to be here for the foreseeable future. So don't even start thinking that.
713-780-ESPN HRMP listener line, 713-780-3776. What a time to be alive if you're a Houston Cougar basketball fan, huh? It's the Killer Bees on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5.
Welcome back, Houston. It's the Killer Bees, Joel Blank and Jeremy Branham, live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
And the Cougars win. Round 2 belongs to Houston.
Wow.
As they win the rematch 73-65 and take over sole possession at the top of the Big 12.
What a time to be a Houston Cougar
Great to
fan,
call.
huh? 3. Houston, number 2 team
Partner
in the
needs to
country,
lay out.
beating number 6 Iowa State 73-65. Houston's won 20 in a row at home, 10-3, first place in conference play. BYU and Baylor play tonight. Baylor with a win would be a game back of Houston. And then Saturday, Houston's at Baylor. So there's no rest for the weary in the Big 12.
The following Saturday, Kansas is here.
Yeah, I think there's another week prior to that.
Is that right?
Because that's the regular season finale.
Whew.
Yeah,
Boy,
so I think
there's
it's
some
2
big ones
weeks
still
after
coming
that.
up. That is a gauntlet, the Big 12 basketball schedule.
Houston's schedule is pretty tough. Last 5: Baylor, Cincy, at Oklahoma, at UCF, and then Kansas at home.
Yeah.
Iowa State's got a little softer schedule in their final 5, so that's why last night was pretty big. But thinking about first off, if you're a Houston Cougar basketball fan, think of what you've had in recent memory. Like you've had a run to the Final 4, you've been in an Elite 8, seems like you're going to the Sweet 16 each and every year. They've won 20 or more games in 9 straight seasons, currently number 2 in the country in the coaches poll and the AP poll, they're number 1 in the computers. And then you have Kelvin Sampson, the lead story, talking with Scott Van Pelt on SportsCenter. Like, you kind of have to pinch yourself if you're a Houston Cougar fan, because you go back to being the old days before Sampson was here, Hoffines Pavilion, and first year of the first couple of years were at Hoffines with Sampson, but no one was going to the arenas. It was a dormant program. Like, it was not good. There was rats all over Hoffines Pavilion, all of this stuff. And now, fast forward 10 years, you're in year 10 of Kelvin Sampson. You become a powerhouse program. You're all over ESPN, and that's there's some help with the Big 12 there, because if that's not a big Monday game, you're not leading it off with Scott Van Pelt. And you've become this college basketball power.
Yeah, and you were actually switched to get to that premier game last night.
Yeah.
Which means they wanted you to be the main story leading into their big 10 o'clock Sports Center. And when you think about it, I was going to those games. I was going and seeing nationally ranked teams come into Hoffines and see maybe 1,500, 2,000 people in the building, if that, and you could buy a GA ticket and walk right down to the floor to see Kentucky and see big-name programs play basketball, and you're going, what is going on? Houston Cougars fans should thank their lucky stars that Kelvin Sampson walked into that building and that the run that they've been on, because it has been phenomenal. And now that is a true home court environment that Fran Fraschilla was talking about on the broadcast last night, and he compared what used to be at Hoffines to one of the best must-see environments and the toughest places to play in college basketball, and it seats 8,000 fans. I mean, it is ideal. It is amazing. Their game operations is fantastic, and the fact that it has made it a destination, just like we're talking about with the Texans, for recruits and prospects coming out of high school basketball. If they want to be coached up by one of the best in the business and they can handle some tough love, Kelvin's the dude. The arena, you're going to love it. The environment, the team itself, it is a fantastic go-to destination for these high school recruits. And when you watch them play, how can you not love the fact that defense travels in college basketball and they get up in your shorts every single night?
It's the hottest ticket in town, too. Like, you look at who's been there the last 2 games. You played Texas Saturday. You played Iowa State yesterday. Both were around 7,900 for Tita Center records. Yesterday, you had a bunch of the former players. C.J. Stroud's there, front row. He was there Saturday, came back Monday. Tank brought him. They're good friends. Ed Oliver was there, returning home. But it's
Dream.
like a who's who. Dream was there on Saturday. I didn't see him yesterday.
He was there for Saturday's game.
He was supposed to be there yesterday, but I didn't see him come into the door. Maybe he was there, snuck away in the back or whatever. But it's the hottest ticket in town. Yep. So you have all the stars that are coming out. You have Hall of Famers. You have lottery picks. You have, the offensive rookie of the year in the NFL. And then on top of that, go look at the secondary ticket prices of what it took to get into the door against Texas, what it would have taken to get into the door against Iowa State, what it's going to take to get into the door of Kansas. It's the hottest ticket in town. It's the best atmosphere that you can find in the city, and they're really stinking good. And Kelvin Sampson, a couple people on the Twitch are saying, do you agree with what Kelvin Sampson said about Jamal Shedd being the best point guard in the nation? I don't watch other teams as much as I watch Houston. I wouldn't trade Jamal Shedd for anybody. You kidding me? No chance.
Plus, if they win the toughest basketball conference in the nation, There's no doubt that he's not only the best point guard in the country to me, but that he's going to be up for the Wooden Award because he is. Cryer's been up and down a little bit, but boy, Shed has been your dog, your leader, your go-to guy. He gets buckets for you. That second half last night was impressive because he just came out and took the bull by the horns and said, I'm going to make something happen, and he did. And I love the fact that it's not just the defense, the offensive rebounding, the three bigs, and the fact that they're selfless enough to just go do the dirty work and then get the ball in the hands of their their backcourt guys and let them go. It's a fun brand of basketball to watch, but you got to appreciate how well they're coached.
I wouldn't trade Samson for anybody either. Like, you just look at the job that he's done in 10 years. You went from being that dormant college basketball program that no one knew you were really still playing, and now you're a perennial power. You've been to a Final Four. You've been to an Elite Eight. You've been to multiple Sweet 16s. You're becoming a fixture in the second weekend of the college tournament. You are currently the number 2 team in the country. You are leading the best college basketball conference that exists in the nation. You stack up what he's done the last 10 years, it's the best coaching job in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to go like the last 30 years, you probably have to put Scott Drew there because he took over the program that was literally on the death penalty and brought him to a national championship. Last 10 years, it's Samson.
Well, and the other thing, when you're looking at all this, and by the way, I'm going to nitpick, but Fran Fraschilla and the people at ESPN, don't, when you're doing who's who that's sitting in the front rows, don't show the camera with a 2-shot of Tank and CJ. Just mention CJ. You can mention Tank Dell because it's a great story, too, because he's an alum. Just make sure you know who that is, too, when you're calling him out.
Yeah, he was like, I actually went back and watched the first half this morning.
Yeah.
And Tank is like literally in the way.
He's in
the way
shot.
of the shot of CJ Stroud and the CJ Stroud graphic. And it's like they don't even give Tank any love.
I could not believe that.
It's literally Tank Dell, his favorite target.
Look,
his best friend.
I think the biggest thing, too, because I was on the other side of it when Kelvin was thinking about going to U of H, it was the perfect storm for both sides. Kelvin needed another opportunity to be a head coach, and college basketball was where he cut his teeth and where he did a hell of a job. And U of H desperately needed someone that could right that ship and take that program in a totally different direction that they had been. And look what you've got 10 years later. It's just been the perfect storm for all parties involved. Look at the facilities that he was able to kind of make sure that they got so that he could compete and recruit too. Because without those, no matter how good a coach he is, it would have been a tough sell.
Yeah, and the money tells the story. Jeremy, you mentioned like the ticket sales and selling out and setting for center records. I mean, I went to a few games in the early 2000s when the big teams would come through, like when Cincinnati and Bob Huggins would come through. And it was very much like the early 2010s with the Astros. You'd sit down and there were whole sections of the arena or the stadium completely wide open to the fact where you could literally talk to the players and they would talk back because it was so quiet in there. So it's amazing. And I just hope Cougars fans, and I know you are, live in the moment, because then you look at their year by year. I mean, going to the tournament every year wasn't the norm. They went from 1992 to 2017 with one tournament appearance.
This is the longest period of sustained winning in Houston Cougar basketball history.
Right.
Like that's a fact. You know, Guy V went to the 5 Final Fours. Right. He got close. He went to 3 in a row. Was the national runner-up twice. There was periods of that. Like, and he was, obviously a Hall of Fame coach. He had Big E, and then with Feist Lamb Majama. But there were years where they didn't make the tournament. There were years where they didn't get to 20 wins. Houston, this current era, they've won 20 or more 9 straight years. They've went to the NCAA tournament. Now, the COVID year kind of screws up this whole like consecutive year thing, but they were going to be a tournament team that year. That's 6 years. This would be the 7th consecutive year. They've been to at least the Sweet 16 in the last 4 NCAA tournaments. COVID was in the mix there too, which that tournament was not played. So this level that the Cougar basketball team has been on it's unprecedented. It's never been done in Houston Cougar basketball history. They're currently in first place in the toughest conference in college basketball. It's a who's who every single night, and it's leading Sports Center.
And they've elevated the bar, too. It used to be, it would be awesome if we broke the top 25 and we got into the tournament, to Brian's point. Now they're in the top 5. They're consistently in the top 10 if they're not in the top 5. And when tournament time comes around and it's winning time, they don't let you down. They're consistently being a story that it's the feel-good story that won't end, that you don't want to end, that everybody knows. They're just going to keep getting better as the season progresses, and that makes it even more fun because you're excited about the fact that they're not even close to putting a cap on this season or this run.
Yeah, he also replaced 2 first-round draft picks. He replaced a lotto pick and then Sasser, Jarris Walker, the lotto pick, Sasser, who went late in the first round.
Playing well for Detroit.
Yeah, he really is. And then they traded for Grimes, which is pretty cool too. But yeah, this is it's a lot of fun. If you're a Houston Cougar basketball fan, it's kind of a pinch you moment too. It's like, okay, you lead the Big 12, 13 games through. Not that you didn't think you were capable, and then all of a sudden you're the lead story on Scott Van Pelt on SportsCenter. And you're right, they've turned in. They've been in the AP Top 25 80 straight weeks, which is the longest stretch in college basketball. But even beyond that, like, they're a perennial top 5 college basketball program. They are power. 713-780-ESPN HRP listener line. Cash it or trash it. What are your hot takes? What are your overreactions? Do you want us to cash or trash? 713-780-3776. It's the Killer Bees on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5. He's blank on Branham. It's time to cash him or trash him. What are you cashing? What are you trashing? Well, I guess you're proposing the take or the overreaction. We'll cash or trash him. 713-780-ESPN, 713-780-3776. What are you cashing or trashing, Blankers?
I'm going to start with Framber Valdez being the Cy Young leader again at All-Star break this year. The new and improved Framber, the more streamlined and tightened up Framber with this lineup on this team is going to pick up where he left off in the first half last year, and he is going to be the starter in the All-Star game, and he is going to be the leading candidate for Cy Young.
I guess he was the betting favorite last year at the All-Star break to win the Cy Young.
Yes.
I think that's true.
That is true.
This is lofty, especially with his second half. I'm usually the homer of the group. I'm going to have to trash it. I think Fromber's going to be good. I don't think he's going to be Cy Young good. I don't think he's going to be Garrett Cole good. So I'm gonna trash it, but I think he'll be top five Cy Young favorite at the All-Star break.
Yeah, I'm going to have to trash it as well, not because I think Fromber's going to be awful, but it's actually in direct correlation to what I'm talking about in my cash or trash it.
We'll go for it.
All right, so my cash or trash it, I think Christian Javier will be the Astros' best starting pitcher this year. I say that for a number of reasons. One, I see the drop-off with Justin Verlander, which, by the way, happy birthday. Yeah. Justin Verlander's birthday is today.
41.
Yeah,
Charles
41.
Barkley, too.
Charles Barkley as well. Couple of H-Town legends. But you saw the ERA jump up by more than a run. The WHIP jumped up a couple points. Obviously he's missing time last year with injury. He comes into this season with whatever is going on with his shoulder. So I see that drop off there. And we just talked about Fromber's second half and how shaky it's got. Whereas with Javier, to me, it's entirely the mile per hour on his fastball. That's his issue. Without the World Baseball Classic, with a little bit longer off season since they weren't in the World Series, I think the rest is going to help Javier. He's obviously his arm's more used to now having to pitch through a full season, which I believe last year was his first full season as a starting pitcher. Mm-hmm. So I think the mile per hour returns to his fastball, and the guy that we saw average 11 strikeouts per 9 is back, and he's the Astros' best starting pitcher in 2022.
So we're going like ERA?
Yeah, ERA's fine.
Okay, all right.
By that measure.
Okay, John McClain. I mean, you did a hell of a job trying to induct him. I obviously have to trash this because I just said what I said about Fromber. So I hope the hell you're right,
we had competing takes, so yeah, I had
and
to
he's
trash
right
yours.
there on the heels of Fromber. But as long as both of those guys are in that conversation for each of our takes, great. But I'll trash it because I said Fromber's going to be where he's going to be.
There was a lot of things that went against Javier last year. Like, he got the contract. So, like, do you take your foot off the gas a little bit? Like a lot of people do. See Anthony Rendon. The velo's not great. Was that because of workload? Was it because of WBC? Was it because of mechanics? Was it because I thought he was a little overweight? Like, he looked a little overweight to me. And then now you throw in the pitch clock. Now it's not good to be a little overweight. Or you could get away with it more in the past. I think that we are going to expect a bit of a bounce back from Javier. I don't think that he's going to be like the workhorse, dominant starter that's the top of the rotation type of guy. And part of that's because I don't think he's going to go amazingly deep into games.
Yeah, I wouldn't go with you.
Yeah, so he might lead the team in ERA, but like even if he has like a team leading ERA, but it's marginal over Fromber, but Fromber's going deeper into games.
I would also say K per 9, ERA and K per 9.
Well, K per 9's also an average stat, so like it wouldn't matter about the innings pitched.
But it would matter as far as dominance.
Yeah, I mean, I could see. I don't know. I'm torn on Javier, which is kind of the optimist, pessimist of where you're at with the Astros rotation. Because I think you can do this with all the guys. Verlander, is he going to beat Father Time? Fromber, first half, second half. Hunter Brown, first half, second half. JP France, was it like for real? Same thing with Javier. Like, is Javier 2022 Christian Javier? Is he 2023 Christian Javier? I don't know. Like, I need to see him pitch a little bit.
I think his pitch count was the biggest, and his velocity were the concerns last year. Mm-hmm. But we know that he doesn't have to go as deep into games, even though he doesn't go deep into games. So if it was wins versus ERA, I think that he's got a better chance because I think that he's gonna pitch 5 innings of successful baseball more times than not.
It was only 14 more innings than the previous year, but you do factor in the WBC.
Yep.
Cash, because I want it to happen. I think Hunter Brown could just as easily do it. Like, Hunter Brown's stuff is nasty, too. Like, if he puts it all together, sweet. Jeff Passan reported that it's inevitable for Major League Baseball to expand and that Salt Lake City and Nashville are the 2 heavily favored candidates. That's fine by me. I'm totally okay if Major League Baseball expands by 2 teams. I don't mind the cities. Salt Lake City, Nashville, fine, as long as the A's get the deal done with Vegas and they actually go. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with expansion. But if they're going to do this, they need to eliminate a division. You need to eliminate the Central Division, go back to the old school East and West, 8 teams in the East, 8 teams in the West, AL, NL. That's how you divide it. I don't need 3 divisions if you're going to have 16 teams in both leagues.
I think more and more we're seeing this across sports, that they're going to redefine divisions, and they're just going to get into more conferences or leagues. I'm totally fine with this because the geography a lot of times doesn't make sense. So I'll cash that.
Yeah, give me that. And
I would agree that you don't stick with 3, but I think you're going to see, if you're going to 32 teams, don't you just see what the NFL does and you have 4 divisions of 4?
no, because you play more games. And like you're seeing this year's schedule is going to be different than the years past where you're not playing your division opponents as much and you're going to play literally every other team in the league. So I think part of what Manfred wants to do is he wants there to be more balance with the schedule. And he wants you to see every single player more than you currently do. And if everybody stayed with their current team, you would see every player every other year. Like the Dodgers, I don't know if the Astros go to L.A. or if L.A. comes here, but if they don't come here this year, that means they're coming here next year. So you can go see.
Well, they were
Shohei
in
Ohtani.
They did that
LA
last year.
so I
Yeah,
think
they started
But
last year.
this is the first year of the balanced schedule. So I don't know if that messes with
okay.
the
I just
like
remember
the
they played
algorithm
in
at all.
LA last year.
Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
that messes with the calculus at all. So get rid of the third division. Just go 8 teams AL East, 8 teams AL West, 8 teams NL East, 8 teams NL West. Play more of a balanced schedule. Each division winner gets a bye, and then the other 4 teams, well, there's your wild card round.
I'm fine with that. Did you see, by the way, when we're talking about all this and expansion, the owners of the D-backs are D-bags. They came out. They're the national. I mean, they won. They went to the World Series. They won the league championship. They've got this amazingly big, spacious, modernized stadium, and they're talking about, I don't know if Phoenix is going to be right for us in the very near future, and I don't know if we're going to have to – we're not listening right now. We know there's cities that want us. Well, you're in Phoenix, Arizona, and Phoenix, Scottsdale's booming.
Yeah, Phoenix is one of the fastest growing cities in the country.
I mean, at a certain point, if you can't say – just shut your mouth, but don't have a press conference and say that stuff coming off the season you just had too. And just piss off your fans.
Sounds like a power play for a new stadium.
Sounds like a Bud
But I
Adams
don't think
move.
they need a new stadium.
I bet you the owners disagree.
I mean, that stadium's been around since they won the World Series with Randy and Kurt
Yeah.
Schilling,
I mean, if
right?
you're
It's been
going-
around for a while.
So is Milwaukee. It's been along just a
I'm
little
not
bit
saying
less
you have to
than
have a new
Minute Maid,
stadium, but it's not
and they're
brand
still
new.
modern.
But this is the time you do it. Like, you kind of have the fans over the barrel. This is the most excited they've been for Arizona Diamondback baseball ever. This is the time that you do it from a negotiation standpoint.
I just think it's a bad look.
I mean, it doesn't look good, but I totally get it from a business point of view. A few of these from the texters. The Texans should have no interest in Saquon Barkley. Cash or trash?
Trash it.
Yeah, I'm going to trash it too.
Trash.
They should
Price
at least kick the
matters.
tires. Price matters.
Yep.
Yeah,
Kick the
I
tires.
wouldn't go past 10, or maybe 11 million per year, but I would certainly at least make the phone call.
Absolutely. Forrest Whitley will make his big league debut before the All-Star break and have a reasonable impact on the bullpen.
I'd cash that.
I'm
I
going to
think
cash
he's
the
going to have
fact
a role.
that he's going to be. He has an outside chance of being on the roster when they break camp. I think that he's going to be on. He'll be on the major league team for sure in the first half of the season. The second half remains to be seen. I know he's had good stuff. I just don't know how
Well, it is, and it's beyond just what he does. It's with how many question marks they have in that middle relief.
But he's
I
also
just
gotta
don't
get
see
it
how
straight.
he's not going to be an option.
He's also got to get it straight between the ears. He's just got to focus in, mature, and be the kind of guy that they need to.
You don't
that they
think
can
he's
rely
mature?
on. No,
What makes you think that?
I mean the PED stuff.
That was a
and-
long time ago.
I don't care. There's been a lot of different things where I'm like, you know what? You're supposed to be this golden child of the organization. At a certain point, it's put up or shut up. I don't have a lot of confidence right now.
I have no reason to believe he is mature. I just don't love that you're hanging on to something that was very long time ago.
I can do that from time to time.
I'll cash that he makes his big league debut. I'm going to come out with the Astro Projection Roster 2.0 on Monday. I don't think I'm going to have him on it to break camp. Currently what I'm feeling right now. But I do think he'll make his debut before the All-Star break. Reasonable impact is going to depend on how he pitches. And I like his stuff. His stuff hasn't always led to results. Cash or trash, Texans will make it to the AFC Championship next year.
Trash it.
I'm in a good mood. Cash it.
Trash.
0002.
Schedule matters.
Brian trashed it. Cash or trash it. If H-Town still had the Comets and we're lucky to draft Caitlin Clark, interest in women's basketball would be steady for 2 to 3 years.
At least.
She's a draw, man.
Someone tried to
the
say that
Comets
she's a
did
bigger
well when
draw
they
right
were
now
here.
than LeBron, which I disagree with.
I mean, they did so well that they left
But
the city.
wherever
Well,
she goes,
during the championship
that's
years.
a draw.
Past that, obviously, didn't.
Yeah, I think she's a draw. Should she stay in college and collect NIL or go to the WNBA?
I would weigh my finances.
Whatever pays more?
Yeah.
I tend to agree. WNBA is not going anywhere. If
It's
she's
not
getting paid more at
because
Iowa,
the NBA is backing it and
well,
behind it.
I'm in for Caitlin Clark. Like she's going to be in the WNBA. It's just a matter of when.
Plus, when you start weighing her NIL money, a lot of it is national sponsorship. She's got State Farm. She has at least one other, whether she's pro or college, she's getting that coin. And the WNBA salaries are not that high.
Yeah, I think it might. I mean, I have no idea the math, but if she gets paid more in NIL at Iowa, she should absolutely stay at Iowa.
Put up a record that's going to probably stand for a long time.
Yeah, she can play, man. She can play. All right, it's mock draft season. How are we making mock drafts great again today, and how are we making the Houston Texans better today? It's Killer Bees on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5.
Hey, take a minute right now for Doc Linville and his staff. Phenomenal at what they do, and they do a ton of stuff. They do Botox. They do spa treatments. They do plastic surgery. But the thing that I know from personal experience that they're the best at, in my opinion, is simply put the neograft procedure. If you're a guy that's lost his hair, losing his hair, thinning, pattern baldness, you don't think there's anything you can do about it. You know that there's sprays and creams and foams that are out there, but they just mask the problem. You're not interested. This is why I'm here to tell you about the neograft procedure. I did the procedure. I could not be happier with it. The results you guys see whenever I have a meeting or whatever and I come in here and I show you the fact that my hair is back thanks to Doc Linville and his staff. He takes follicles that are never going away, and I learned from meeting with him and having a consultation with him that the hair on the sides and the back of your head is not going anywhere, and as long as you live, you're going to have it. He takes some of it and puts it where you need it most. He repurposes it, if you will, and that almost 99% of the follicles he's going to move stay, grow, get longer, stronger. It's going to be with you for the rest of your life. That was the game changer for me. That would made the difference and said, I got to try this procedure. Boy, am I glad I did. You could be next in line. As a listener to this show and to our station, you get a consultation with Doc and his staff absolutely free. It normally costs $150 for listeners to ESPN 97.5. All you got to do is go to 975hair.com. Set up the appointment. It's free. Nothing out of pocket, no signing on the dotted line, no commitment that you have to make. Just go in, talk to them, ask questions, get answers, find out about the procedure and see if it's right for you. If it's right for you like it was right for me, you are going to be glad you did it because, boy, oh, boy, did it change everything. From your appearance to your self-confidence, it's a game changer, and it's fantastic. Check them out today. Go to 975hair.com.
Hey, Houston, you're live in the Hive with the Killer Bees, Joel Blank and Jeremy Branham on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
6146, the Cash or Trash segment is one of the most simple but best segments on the station. Y'all do a great job. We don't have time for kindness.
Yes, we do.
We have a mean text segment that we do every
They got
Friday
time
to
for
end the
both.
week. We don't want anybody kissing
Speak
up.
for yourself.
You don't
We're
have to
just
say
like
nice
LeBron
things.
James. We don't really take compliments well.
I don't take compliments well at all. Compliments make me uncomfortable.
Well, you know what? Speak for yourself, though. If they want to compliment us, there's room for both since you guys love that
You're
stupid
great. Oh, gee,
segment
thanks.
at the end of the freaking week.
What do you say? You're great, too.
Buzzkill Branham over here.
Compliments are awkward. Like, I think they're awkward. You're really handsome, Branham.
Well, they lie.
Now you're
Thanks.
just talking to yourself.
Appreciate that.
I was gonna say, they
You're really
lied.
smart, Branham. Thank you. You do a really great job on the radio. Thank you. It's just awkward. These things are awkward. Send us the mean stuff. That way you can contribute to the show. 713-780-ESPN. So it's time to make mock drafts great again. Daniel Jeremiah is the mock that we'll be looking at today. Yesterday we had the option of Enos Rakestraw, Jordan Morgan, Cooper DeJean, and Byron Murphy. The voters, they went with Byron Murphy. 56%. Been the biggest blowout that we have. So our listeners like Byron Murphy. I've learned that with yesterday's mock draft. You can vote for today's mock at Jeremy Branham. You can just look at it at ESPN 97.5 on Twitter as well. Brian just retweeted it. So today's Daniel Jeremiah's, I'm going to stop doing top 10. Top 10's a little old. We're just going to go top 5 and then look at the Texans pick. Caleb Williams, number 1 to Chicago. No surprise. Drake May, number 2 to Washington, which the second quarterback off the board is going to be interesting.
It is.
I got 100 smackaroos laying on it. Number 3, I have Drake May going ahead of. I have a $100 bet. Me and my buddy. His name's Guy. He's a guy. He has Jaden Daniels going ahead of Drake May. I have Drake May going ahead of Jaden Daniels.
I'm going to be. I'm not going to say amazed. I'm going to be very surprised if Jaden Daniels climbs all the way that high and is the second quarterback taken in this draft. I know he won the Heisman, but the way he played, style of play, and how it translates to the NFL, I'm curious. But I have question marks about Drake May too, so it's going to be an interesting race.
I think people are going to nitpick Drake May throughout this process to the point where he drops a little bit. If I'm honest, I've already seen some of that come out with Lance Zierlein and a few others where they're picking apart his game. So
Haven't seen enough, didn't have to do enough.
Yeah,
didn't do enough big flashy plays.
I'd be surprised.
Did Jaden Daniels do enough though? Kidding.
Yeah,
would you bet $100 on Drake May or Jaden Daniels?
Jaden Daniels.
Blankers?
I would take Drake May.
There you go.
Split.
If somebody wants to bet me $100, I might just hedge this and get out of this for free.
Did you put Drake May ahead of Jaden Daniels?
Yeah, I have 100 on Drake.
I can see that.
I'm actually I haven't been able to find second quarterback taken odds yet, but I'm going to try to hedge it. I'm not comfortable with where I'm at, if I'm being completely honest. Don't tell anybody I said that. Anyways, Marvin Harrison goes number 3 in this one. So Jaden Daniels slides out of the top 3. Marvin Harrison, number 3 to New England, which is cool. Malik Neighbors, number 4, the receiver from LSU, goes before the quarterback from LSU. And then Joe Alt goes number 5 to the Chargers, try to protect Justin Herbert a little bit. Jaden Daniels does fall number 6 to the Giants, which, if you're a Giant fan, Todd the Show, you like Jaden Daniels there?
Feels like a death sentence
like
for Jaden Daniels. Like, what weapon does he have to throw to?
I don't think so at all.
I don't think so either.
I think Daniel Jones plays for one more year. You get a chance to get settled in, learn the system, learn your offensive-minded head coach, and figure some things out. And if they're going to be bad and they lose Barkley or they don't have the weapons, let Daniel Jones take the beating. You get settled in, and when Daniel Jones' contract is up, so is he, and your time to shine comes right in.
I could get with that. I just would be afraid of putting Jaden Daniels in a game with their current offensive skill players. But if you're talking about setting a year and building a team, over the next calendar year, then I'd be fine with that.
That's my point. You don't have to take the beating or deal with the skill players they have this year. Daniel Jones does. And then when they kind of build the whole thing around you the next year, you're in a great spot.
Jeremiah has J.J. McCarthy going to Atlanta at number 8 just to play the quarterback game. That's high for J.J. McCarthy.
That has bust
I know they need
all
quarterback, but I don't like that one.
Teams love quarterbacks, though, so you know how that goes. So slide all the way down to number 23. Daniel Jeremiah has the Houston Texans selecting Brian Thomas Jr., the wide receiver from LSU. He says bringing him in with Nico and Tank, Houston would rival any team in the league for the best trio at wide receiver. If the Texans select receiver at number 23 on draft day, you will feel what?
I will not feel happy. I don't think that that's their biggest position of need. And, of course, we're going to have to a lot lays in the balance to figure out what they do or don't do with their own free agents and free agency. But I think that there is probably going to be at least one of 2 positions that they're going to have a bigger need for, and that will either be pass rusher or corner, and you might throw D-line in there as well based on D'Amico. I just don't think that a first-round pick towards a wide receiver is the right play here.
I don't like receiver here either, and I'm going to stand on that table unless you have one of the studs
What if it's best
slide.
player available though? Because I agree with you guys that corner and defense alignment are bigger needs, but best player available. That Byron Murphy goes earlier, the corners you like go earlier. I mean, I do think wide receivers a need.
I just
and
think
if you don't address it in free agency,
I don't think a Brian Thomas type's necessarily a high, just head and shoulders the best available. Because unless a Roma Dunze slips to 23, which is very unlikely.
That's not happening.
There's a lot of depth in this draft where you're going to have corners like Rakestraw is going to be available, DeJean's going to be available, Chop Robinson, if you don't bring back John Grenard's going to be available. So I see what you're saying, and I'm a BPA guy, but I like receivers in the middle rounds, and I like a few of names specifically where I feel like you need to draft that defensive guy early.
And Nick's proven he can find receivers later.
Yeah.
So I don't think receiver first round is the right mix.
We're out on it. Where are you at, Brian?
I just think wide receiver is a bigger need than you guys are
no, I
believe
think it's
at
a
this
need.
point.
I don't think you need it in the first round.
I don't think it's necessarily wide receiver or bust in the first round. I would definitely lean corner or defensive tackle or pass rusher if one of those was the best player available. But I wouldn't run away from wide receiver if it's there, because going back to our earlier conversation about Mike Evans, we saw what happened to this team as soon as Tank Dell went down. You're down to just Nico Collins, and it was a struggle. He didn't have enough playmakers. CJ didn't have enough playmakers around him. So if you take Brian Thomas or you go after a big guy in free agency, then that depth obviously allows the Texans to have fewer drop-offs when someone's out.
Fair enough. I think you can find playmakers other places, but compelling point. So you're cool with it. Blankers and I would not be huge fans of it. So let's do the Brian Thomas next 3 picks. So you have the option of Brian Thomas, LSU receiver, Tyler Guyton, Oklahoma offensive tackle, Cooper DeJean, the Iowa corner, maybe eventually a safety, and then Adonai Mitchell, wide receiver from Texas. Brian McDonald's a big Texas fan. Blankers, you're in the shoes of Nick Caserio. Hope you can fit him. Who are you taking of these 4?
I'm going DeJean. I'm going Cooper DeJean. I just feel like the needs for this team and the more immediate needs are going to be right on the defensive side of the football based on what we talked about. And I think that, I don't know, I would maybe ideally like to have a different corner than DeJean. But I think DeJean, if that's the guy and the people to choose from, that's the direction I'm going.
Yeah, I'm going DeJean here too. A texter even says if the Texans sign a receiver, they're not going to pick a receiver in the first round. But you kind of have to see how free agency goes. We don't know how free agency
with
going.
any position.
Yeah,
really.
I agree. Like if you sign Steven Nelson, you're not drafting DeJean in round 1.
Right.
If you bring back John Grenard, you're not going with Chop Robinson. So we almost have to act like we're not bringing back any of these guys. I'm going to go with Cooper DeJean too. It's unanimous with the Bees. Brian,
make it a sweep. Yeah,
you going with DeJean too after arguing for receiver?
Yeah, you just received.
No, I said you asked me if I'd be fine with it. That's a different conversation than what I would take.
I know, but that's no fun.
No, I'm a little concerned that he would possibly be switching to safety, but at 23, to me, that's late enough where I'd be fine with safety too, and I would, if I'm running the Texans, Jimmy Ward would be a cap casualty, so you'll have an opening there as well.
That's exactly
so
what I was going to say.
If Cooper DeJean is the guy that D'Amico likes, it almost really doesn't matter if he plays safety or corner because you're going to have an opening in both places. And again, secondary is a bigger need than wide receiver, so I will go with the defensive back.
So Cooper DeJean, the pick.
As Jeremy would say, I believe Jimmy Ward's shown me more than enough to show he's washed.
I love adding an
It's
R.
very Texas of you.
The
Yes,
W words.
yes.
Washed.
Washed and birthday.
Birthday?
Those are the East Coast version of the
How do you say
Philly,
birthday?
The Philly peeps like to say washed and birthday.
Philly says washed?
Yep.
That's a Texas
Yeah,
thing.
I've heard that's
I've
an
heard
East
it in Texas,
thing.
but I've heard it also in Philadelphia.
Interesting. The
And
early
water.
returns on the Twitter poll, hundreds have voted already, almost 100. Brian Thomas, 38%, Cooper DeJean at 37%. So this will be one to monitor to see what the people
You don't think
wanna
the
do.
horns bias plays into that?
I mean,
Oh, that's
It
right. No,
did-
no, no.
it
I
did
mean
for me.
No, I don't.
For me.
No, I was thinking the other
Adonai
receiver,
Mitchell.
Adonai Mitchell.
He's
yeah.
at 15%, but maybe Adonai Mitchell steals some of the Brian Thomas receiver vote.
Yeah, I would
Boosts
think that
Cooper
both of
DeJean.
those guys, because of where they play and being close to home here,
I
that
mean,
there'd be a lot more interest.
I like Adonai Mitchell, but I just don't. I'm a little uncomfortable taking him this high, considering his volume was never significantly high. He was never relied on as the alpha target in Georgia, in Texas. He was always the complimentary piece. I don't like taking complimentary pieces in the first round.
All right.
I like that. You can vote along at ESPN 97.5 at Jeremy Branham on the Twitter. 713-780-ESPN. There's some of these, some guesses. That's more of a guess than a report. The trade packages that it would cost to move up to number 1, and boy, is it pricey. It's the Killer Killer Bees on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5.
Welcome back, Houston. These guys missed you over the last break. It's the Killer Bees, Joel Blank and Jeremy Branham, live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
Get you these trade packages for number one in a moment. He's Blank on Branham. We're going to 5:30 today, by the way. Fighting Texas Aggies play basketball against the Arkansas Razorbacks. A&M on the good side of the bubble right now, but got business to take care of. Final few regular season games and then into the SEC tournament. So we'll make way for Andrew Monaco at the bottom of the hour. Still plenty of fun to be had between now and then. Somebody's taking you to task here, Brian. I love it when our texters take us to task. It leads to great debate.
Hit me. Yeah, tell me.
6146. Brian Thomas was a complimentary piece to Malik Neighbors. Why would you be better with him than Mitchell?
It was more about, it's not, that's not, maybe I phrased it wrong. It's not necessarily complimentary piece. It's more about the volume. Like, Adonai Mitchell just did not get a lot of volume last year at Texas. Whenever the volume went to, obviously Xavier Worthy, went to Jatavion Sanders, it went to the running backs. Adonai Mitchell was more of the deep threat and the red zone threat. And while that has a great role, obviously, on a team, I don't see that as being a first-round pick.
You talked your way out of it. All right. Okay. You got off to a slow start, but you finished strong. I like that. Here's another one taking you to task, Brian, 6761. Now, you're a Texas fan. You watch a lot of Longhorn football.
I do.
6761, the guy behind the glass is a moron. So there's
Wow, name calling before the tape.
Well, day 2 on the show.
Well,
That didn't take
that's
long.
the first Brian Mean text. That will be repurposed for Friday
All right.
at 5:45. He says the guy behind the glass is a moron. Emphasis on that. AD was the primary big moment alpha receiver at Texas. He and Xavier Worthy were used completely differently at Texas, but there's only one football, and Sark's system spreads it around.
Sark's system does spread it around, but I mean, Mitchell was never the first read. I mean, he was definitely a big play receiver, but I said that earlier in the conversation. This segment, he was never the first read. Sometimes not even the second read, and that's kind of more my point. Not that Mitchell doesn't have talent, and I'd like to have him on the Texans at 6'4". He's a great red zone target, big play receiver. I just don't see him as a number one read, and that's not a guy I'm taking in the first round.
All right. I think you handled that well. So there's some prices being thrown out for what it would cost to move up to number one. I'm really hoping that the Commanders do this because I want Cliff Kingsbury and Caleb Williams to be an item so bad. It's just it'd be a great couple. It'd be the best couple in the NFL since Kelsey and Swift. Here are a couple of the packages that have been thrown around by NFL.com. The first one comes from the Commanders. So, okay, let's see what the Commanders would have to do to move up one spot. And would you do this if you're Washington? Commanders get the first overall pick. They move up one spot. They're probably taking Caleb Williams. In return, the Bears receive the second pick of the NFL draft, 2 second-round picks. I guess Washington has 2 second-round picks, number 36, number 40, and then a third-round compensation pick, which comes at the end of the third round.
I think it's too much.
That's a lot.
I'm not doing that. I think the Washington roster obviously needs to be completely overhauled even more. They need more talent all over the place. The 2 seconds are probably going to be guys that start immediately for you as well as the first. And for only one spot to give up that much, no, I'm not doing it.
I would do this if I knew that Caleb Williams was C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, right. And I don't know that.
Exactly.
That's where you have to. That's where your scouting has to factor in.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're hell bent and you're Washington's GM and you're watching that guy, you're like, yeah, he is Pat Mahomes. He is C.J. Stroud. I'm willing to risk my job for Caleb Williams. If he's to that point, you do it.
Right, but he didn't show you that the last 6 weeks.
That's
or so.
where your scout on
Yeah.
Caleb Williams is different than what it would take for somebody to have that scout to trade up to one.
And what I've seen before this were like rumors where they were saying a second and a fifth to move up the one spot. Like a second and a fifth is easily something to be considered. If you're the Bears, you're taking this, I think, as quickly as you possibly can, unless you're just that down on Justin Fields.
Okay,
That's a whole hell of a lot to get.
Well, Justin Fields isn't following any of the Bears stuff anymore. So,
That's right.
I mean,
And he's following Atlanta's skill position.
Apparently, that matters. Do you make this trade, Brian?
I absolutely make this trade. And if we're working,
If you're who? Washington?
Yeah, if I'm Washington, if we're working under the assumption that Washington believes Caleb Williams is the guy and that they don't love Drake May and Jaden Daniels, to me, the price of 2 seconds to third is worth getting your franchise quarterback. I would absolutely make this deal.
I think our answer is going to be this way with all of these packages, that it depends on your evaluation of Caleb
There's a
Williams.
drop-off point, though.
What is your drop-off point?
I would take the deal that we're scrolling ahead, obviously, but the Washington and New England, I would make the deal for both of them.
The Patriots deal would be that they get number one. The Patriots would then trade the third pick, a second pick, the second rounder, number 34, a future first, and a future third. So that would be the price for New England to move up 2 spots to number one.
Yeah, I would still make that deal. Where I would probably start to push back and pass and hope my scouting can identify the next quarterback is what the projected package is for the Giants. Where not only they're giving up the swap, a second and a third this year, but they're also talking about giving up 2 additional first-round picks. I would be out at that point.
That is a lot.
If you know that Caleb Williams
A
is
second,
CJ
a
Stroud,
third, and 2
See,
firsts.
but I don't think anybody knows anymore.
Well, I mean, it depends on your evaluation. It depends on your evaluation. Like, again, you have to be willing to put your job on the line for him.
A year ago, this is a no-brainer that most teams are going to make because they just think that he can't miss.
Yeah.
And now there's a lot of question marks.
If I have the scout on the guy and I think he's the next Pat Mahomes, C.J. Stroud, like the type of rookie season he had, I'm making every single one of these trades because you have to aggressively attack getting a franchise quarterback, and I'm not sure that there's a cost so great that I wouldn't like exchange for that franchise quarterback. Like what wouldn't you trade? What would be off limits for C.J. Stroud? Like, and I know that you have the benefit of hindsight here and all of this stuff.
You're
That's why you
package.
you have to know your scout. Yeah, I would trade 3 firsts for C.J. Stroud without a doubt.
Yep.
Without a doubt. I would trade more than 3 firsts.
Yeah,
I would I would Herschel Walker for C.J. Stroud.
Working with the knowledge of what Stroud is,
Sure.
but obviously we're not allowed that luxury with Caleb Williams.
But I think that's where your scout comes into play. Like, if you're the general manager and you just look at him as a can't-miss home run prospect and you are just for sure about it, you have no doubt in your mind.
You definitely would have to lay your job on the line because giving up the package that the Giants would be projected to give up again, a second, a third, and 2 future firsts on top of the pick swap. You miss there, you're done.
You are. You have to be. I mean, you have to be. It would be a brave move. You would need a lot of cojones to do it.
Especially with the Giants when you don't have
worth it.
Especially with the Giants when they don't have their skill position players filled out.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, those second, a third, and 2 firsts are the things you would be using to give Caleb Williams the weapons he needs.
You didn't think that the Texans had their skill position players figured out
point.
too, though.
Yeah.
So, like, you have to aggressively attack that quarterback. Like, I think Nick Caserio put his job on the line trading up to number 3. I think what he gave up was so, I don't want to use the word extreme. It was a high price to trade up to number 3, where if Will Anderson turned out to be lousy and we're 2-3 years down the road and he was just this mediocre defensive end, Caserio would get fired for that trade.
No question about it. Maybe sooner than that. And a lot had to depend on it as well. The other caveat there is, I mean, I was one of the I think the majority that didn't think this team was going to be that good that quickly to put the season together that they did as well. If that was a top 5 pick and Will Anderson didn't look great, now he might have been fired at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the year, and
Because
Stroud would have probably had to be a miss too.
You look at it too. When teams do this, to your point about getting fired, the only guy, because Chicago, all the guys that made the Trubisky trade and moved up to do what they did got fired. The only reason why Shanahan and Lynch didn't get fired for Trey Lance is because the team had success and the fact that they found another quarterback in a draft that turned out to be a starter, so they save face.
Yeah, I guess it'd been the year after, but they eventually found their quarterback, right?
Because they had Jimmy G.
I just don't think that I don't think that there's too high of a price to get a franchise quarterback. Now, if you're wrong, you're going to get fired. It's the price of doing business. If you're right, no one's going to care that you do this.
Right.
No one's going to care if you traded 3 first-rounders for C.J. Stroud and he has the rookie year.
It's the most
and
important
brings the
position
promise
in sports.
Yeah. I just don't think that there's a price too high. But you have to be willing to put your job on the line. That's what it's cost. You're not a huge fan of Caleb Williams. So, like, your answer is going to be no here.
I'm not going to say that I'm not a huge fan. I just see a lot of red flags that I didn't see a year ago.
I do too.
And so there's a lot of things that I question that I wasn't questioning 12 months ago that make me, be a little bit more apprehensive about what I'm giving up and how many eggs I'm putting in his basket to where there's just too many concerns right now.
I mean, the Giants' price is pretty high. You're looking at number 6, a 25 first, a 26 first, a 24 second, a 24 third. The Atlanta price from trading up from number 8. This one involves players. Falcons would get number 1, Khalil Herbert. Bears would get the number 8 overall pick, Bijan Robinson.
Ooh.
A 24 third, a 25 first, a 26 second. So, like, these are the kind of moves that you would be making for a quarterback. You better be right about the quarterback, and it better work with the quarterback, because if not, you're going to look like the biggest idiot in the world.
And let's be honest, Chicago, I don't think there's any trade that's going to knock their socks off that they're going to be taking these packages. I mean, they took a good package last year.
It depends on what you think of Caleb Williams,
right?
And Fields, and that's from the Bears' case. Now the team's trading up; it's what you think of Caleb Williams. For the Bears, it's what you think of Caleb Williams and Justin Fields, and is the delta there.
And you already got a extra sweeteners and draft capital a year ago by making the trade that you did. So if you feel like you're upgrading the quarterback position, it's more hyper important. You stay, and take the guy that's better than the guy you have, as opposed to another year of taking a whole laundry list of picks, but not having any definitive answer at quarterback.
Because if you're the Bears and you let's just say you like Justin Fields and maybe Justin Fields turns out to be pretty good, like this Falcons trade looks pretty sexy. You get 2 firsts, you get Bijan Robinson. It's guaranteed that one of them's in the top 10. The Giants pick, you get 3 firsts, a second, and a third. You have all that capital, so like now you're building this really good roster. If you like Fields, it's entertaining to trade out of number one.
I think the one thing that made it a little bit more difficult is the way he finished the season, too. Fields actually figured some stuff out, looked a lot better, had a couple of very impressive games to where he made the discussion a little bit more interesting and challenging, because otherwise it was a no-brainer. They were moving on from him, and they were taking Caleb.
He did until that final Week 18 game, and then it lost all the goodwill that he did. It would have been very entertaining.
Was that New England?
I don't remember. I remember he had a stinker in
Yeah,
the
it was
final
like
week.
it was like a baseball score, wasn't
It
it?
was brutal.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been real, because he was playing well, you're right. Like, if you would have had one final game and he's entering the offseason with like a stretch of 6 games where he played really well, now it's a more compelling conversation. But then you throw that stinker and it's like, okay, well, I can see why they're willing to
And
move
he's
on.
getting Komet involved and more involved, and he's doing all the things that you thought he was going to do all season, and then you're like, hey, this is what we wanted. This is what we signed up for. And then you're right. That I forgot. Week 18 was not great.
I'm rooting for a trade, though, because it's entertaining. It would give us something to talk about. 713-780-ESPN. Moving up the car wreck of the day today. What are you nominating for our car wreck of the day? 713-780-3776. What is worthy of that car wreck of the day? It's the Killer Bees on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5. First, a moment on Pro Dunk Hoops. They make the highest quality basketball goals you'll find. This is the season for a goal, too. March is right around the corner, and I bet you that March is one of the most popular months for a basketball goal. You're watching the brackets, you're watching March Madness, you're watching all the buzzer beaters, and you're going to want to go out and shoot some hoops, but especially your kids. Your kids are going to watch that and be, hey, I want to go shoot some hoops. Well, if you're going to do that, you should have a goal from Pro Dunk. We mentioned highest quality basketball goals you'll find, unlike anything in the big box stores. Tempered glass backboard, breakaway rim, stainless steel hardware, rust-proof, which is huge to have in Houston, height adjustable as well. You can lower it from 5 feet anywhere to 10 feet, and their new lightning adjust feature, that's right, their new goal, Thor, you raise and lower the goals with a drill. You can get from 5 feet to 10 feet in 10 seconds. Easy to do. It's fun to do. It's fantastic. Their accessories are next level too. LED light kits for night play. We understand that you work. We understand that your kids have school. The only time to play is at night. We'll get these LED light kits to make it easier to play at night. Backstop nets. You don't have to chase after the basketball. Pull pad lettering so you can customize your goal as well. And you can order all of that online. You can also order professional installation. You're worried about screwing it up. You're not great on a ladder. You're not great with a level. Well, let the pros at Pro Dunk professionally install your goal. They'll guarantee perfection, perfect height, perfectly straight. You don't lift a finger. Let the pros at Pro Dunk do all of the work for you and guarantee the highest quality basketball goal on the market. Call right now, 281-351-9822, 281-351-9822, and visit produnk.com. That's produnk.com. He's Blank. I'm Branham. Time now for our car wreck of the day. Blankers, what are you nominating for car wreck of the day?
Texas A&M Commerce, Incarnate Word, the brawl that would never end was a little bit nuts. I know it was a couple years ago that we got into the whole conversation about the handshake line after games.
Oh, yeah. Do you
This
have audio
took
of
it
this?
to a whole new level.
Oh, no, this is not good. This is really not good. We've got punches being thrown. This is really bad. Oh, my goodness.
Ooh, full team fight. Coaches in the middle of it. Wouldn't be surprised. Someone got a nick on the face there.
This is not what you want to see after
That close of
it
a
has
game.
been a great game. We've got everything going on right now. We still have guys running after people. Oh, my
Someone
goodness.
in the crowd was hurt and hit.
It's a pretty poor description of that.
Where's Kevin Harlan when you need him?
They said this
grade
is
the
a
call,
terrible
Jeremy.
finish.
Grade the call.
One. They said it was a terrible finish after a good game. Is it
Doesn't
not
matter.
a terrible finish after a bad game?
It doesn't matter what the outcome of the
What does
game
the
was.
quality of the game matter without the Nixon cut of a blade?
Yeah, they did a horrendous job. If you haven't seen it, you can find it online. It was ridiculous. It started basically towards the end of the first players getting to the back of the other team's line in the handshake line, and it went all over the court, and it would not end, and guys were not thinking about how long they might be suspended and the ramifications, and everyone was involved, and it was a bleep show.
They're taking
3-2-0.
Texas A&M fighting Ags a little too seriously.
Yeah, I think they're the Lions.
I know. I'm just.
I think they're the Lions.
trying
Where
to
is
come
A&M
on.
Commerce?
In Commerce.
Where's Commerce?
In Texas.
I know there's
I don't know.
A&M Kingsville and Corpus Christi and
I think-
Galveston.
I think Commerce is out like west of Waco, like
Oh,
Waco,
really? That far?
Dallas.
Okay.
I had David Bailiff was the head coach at Texas A&M Commerce.
Really?
I had
The
a buddy
former
who
Rice coach?
Yeah.
Wow.
He was the head coach there for football. Incarnate Word's in San Antonio.
Yep.
I think they're the Cardinals. I think it's the A&M
I don't know
Commerce
that, but-
Lions. I think it's the Incarnate Word Cardinals.
We used to practice
this-
at Incarnate Word in San Antonio.
Oh, really? 3209 says, car wreck of the day is that game. Players trying to fight, but no swings. Kind of disappointing. I don't think there were swings. Maybe nobody was connecting.
Yeah, there were some swings, but the fact that the one guy that went chart went for round 2, and it took 3 players to try and
Yeah.
slow him down. It's a bit much.
I thought it was fun to watch. I mean, you never want to see it, but it's fun to watch if it happens. I mean, it's why everybody watched it. It's why all the videos
watched
of it
it
went
multiple
viral.
times because
Exactly.
I was looking for the haymaker.
3581. What I really want to know is who won the fight. I couldn't tell. It was like a no contest to me. No one really
It was
got
a
any
lot
damage.
of fake toughness,
Yeah, no one really got any damage done.
which maybe was a good thing.
Northeast of Dallas. My bad. I thought it was northwest of Dallas.
She wasn't wrong, though, in the fact that there was a fan or two that got messed up, and that is messed up.
Yeah, hopefully they're all right. Using social media to send message like Justin Fields no longer following the Bears. We take social media way too seriously. Like, what are you doing? Like, you unfollowed the Bears. Congratulations. What are you nominating, Brian?
I'm going to nominate the J.J. Redick Rivers family dispute that's been going on today on the
Why?
ESPN. I mean, it's fun, but it's kind of a car wreck to see how Patrick Beverly jumped in, and then the response from J.J. Redick. That's a bit of a car wreck.
Now Austin Rivers is on ESPN as well as JJ Redick, and I missed the fact that he responded to, which I'm curious about, because the back and forth. I love the honesty of JJ Redick, who just officially got named the replacement for Doc, ironically, on the ABC game.
All right, who's winning?
I think it's
gotta be
I think
fight,
it's a fight.
yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
Congratulations, A&M Commerce, Incarnate Word. You're our car wreck of the day. It's going to do it for us. We're out a little bit early. Texas A&M on the bubble needs a win against Arkansas. Andrew Monaco, Texas A&M basketball next on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.